What day is it? What year is it? I feel like I used the same joke on the last video. Hey guys, it's me, Steffi Cat. No way, it's my YouTube. I'm just retreading ground and ground. Okay, let's get into the meat of this. To address the big old elephant in the room. Goodness, it has been basically 2 years since the last part of the Monster Mix tier list. The Snowden episode in August of 2024, and it's 2026. What? I am so sorry. Yeah, a lot of stuff has happened, and to be completely fair, I've become a little bit disincentivized to talk about like tier lists or ranking and stuff because, like, you know, just listen to it yourself is mostly what I've gotten from it. But then I realized, wait a second, what if my huge audience doesn't know about Monster Mix? Plus, I've also just been listening to Monster Mix recently and just realized why I really want to talk about this series again, because oh my gosh, it is so good. And I also have 64 pages, 66 pages, sorry, 66 pages of me yapping about Monster Mix tracks up until the pacifist ending, so I don't even have the yapping about the No Mercy route. So all that being said, TLDR, I really need to talk about Monster Mix again, and also seeing as, you know, things are happening this year, and like the bell is tolling, or however it's said, my time is running out with specific aspects of this channel, and also I just really need to finish what I started with this series. So here we are, and I'm going to be ranking more Monster Mix. Yes. Yeah. One thing is, I will try to, like, apologies, but you might want to have this in the background of something because I am likely going to be yapping, and other than the impeccable art that is sometimes created for some of these entries and tracks, like, really, the art is truly really good. I know, I believe Toadie is usually credited Austhetic for some of the art, but I'm sorry, I'm probably not gonna check. I know that seems really lazy, but like, I'm trying to get this series out, okay? I'm sorry. But anyways, I don't really want to yap as much as I am right now, because if you have seen the length of this video, it is quite the lengthy one. And that is because I'm not just ranking the Waterfall replacement section in this part. I am ranking, it's ranking. Now, I am ranking and talking about the Waterfall replacement section, the Hotland replacement section, and the neutral route replacement section. I'm not going to do pacifist as well, because I think it would be awkward for two parts of Ruins replacement section, Snowden replacement section, a big old glob, and then the No Mercy route. I think that would just be awkward. So I'm going to have this huge big old glob, and then the pacifist route, and then the No Mercy route. Or maybe pacifist and No Mercy will be lumped into one video. I have not decided that yet. I just need to get this out while I still have freedom in spring break. So, with all of that being said, we're gonna get into it. A little bit of disclaimer, and I promise there won't be much yapping between times. I believe I probably put up a, if you want to skip the yapping and get straight to it, timestamp. But a small disclaimer, I may have made this tier list ranking about like 3 or so years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And Looking back on it, I am not going to redraft the whole thing because it would take, honestly, way too much work. And at that point, instead of re-yapping about all of it, I could yap about dashing Toadie Tail, the old switcheroo, all of those, like, Toadie is knocking it out of the park with some of her new series. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is, as a preface, I am bound to make some mistakes in some of my criticisms. Sometimes I won't, like I'll miss something, sometimes I'll just be dense, and sometimes, well, it's gonna be on my opinion, which you already know. I don't know why I'm prefacing this, but just in case, just in case, I don't want to get any trouble. After all, I really enjoy Monster Mix and really all of Toadie's work, but this is all coming out of a place of love and just wanting to yap about an amazing series that I absolutely adore. So, without further ado, there won't be much in the background other than some editing here and there. I don't want to make the editing too much, so then it takes just too much time in general. But anyways, enough yapping. Well, now let's get into the real yapping, starting in the Waterfall replacement. Let's Monster Mix! Oh my gosh. Starting Waterfall strong now, are we, Toadie? Instead of being a mid-replacement of Danger Mystery, Royal Inspection does so much more. Royal Inspection introduces not one, but 2 role shifts in Monster Mix, and I really like these role shifts, so get ready for some yapping. The main role shift of this track introduces is Papyrus replacing Asgore, as implied by the royal title of Royal Inspection and the shadowed sprite of Papyrus wearing a crown in the track's image. This may be my favorite role shift in Monster Mix, as it provides so much for a Papyrus lover and Asgore lover like me to enjoy. Papyrus is by far my favorite character from Undertale, so as you can imagine, role shifting him as the big final boss of the neutral route, aside from the Omega Flower replacement, is really hype. Asgore as a character is so interesting, seeing as his actions are so morally gray because of the situation he's put himself in by declaring war on humans in Undertale and being the Underground's king. It really puts him in an interesting situation, as he's the main hope for the monsters leaving the Underground. On top of all of this, something you may not know about me is that one of my favorite neutral endings from Undertale is the Papyrus Ruler ending. So having Papyrus canonically be the ruler of the Underground of Monster Mix is really exciting. And on top of that, wait, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, the role shifts. The Royal Inspection's description implies another role shift to look over, as stated by Toadie. Papyrus will make occasional appearances throughout Waterfall to trick up on his brother and whether or not he's doing his job. Who is the main character working in Waterfall and Undertale? That's right, you got it! Sans is replacing Undyne in Monster Mix's Waterfall as well. I'll save most of my thoughts on that later for the titular character's main theme, and instead direct my energy towards when Royal Inspection would play. The idea of Papyrus checking up on his bro to see if he's actually working or not is so in character for the duo, and Papyrus fueling the danger in this Danger Mystery replacement is awesome as well. The other idea of Papyrus checking up on Sans instead of Undyne talking to Papyrus is interesting too, and I think it'd be cool to see all that play out. Okay, I should probably talk about the actual song now. Royal Inspection seems to be entirely orchestral, not using any Bitcrush sound fonts at all, and it helps the dangerous feel of the track. It only uses Papyrus's nyeh or bone trussel leitmotif, and somehow still sounds pretty diverse and different throughout. The underlying dun 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 part of the track does sound menacing, which is crazy to say, seeing as how this is a Papyrus track after all is said and done. When Papyrus's theme comes in on the harp, it doesn't overstay its welcome and perfectly portrays how Papyrus might be fueling this danger mystery, but he's still the same playful and goofy skeleton we all love. After all that, where should I put Royal Inspection? Okay, so hear me out, and please don't get angry. Oh, forget it, this is my tier list anyways. Royal Inspection is easily and comfortably going to sit just below the gap in bestest of the bestest tier. If you don't know why I put it there, respectfully, you should probably open your ears more often. Okay, maybe that was mean, but come on, I just spent like 5 minutes yapping about what I liked about this track and the ideas behind it. Okay, but let's move on. We've already spent more than enough time on this one track alone. Sans is Sans, but more punchier and then more Undyne-y, which makes sense in context of the track. If you don't know already, Sans is the Undyne replacement for Monster Mix, which is a pretty cool idea. Sans replaces Undyne in Monster Mix's OST, and it works pretty well with Sans' character. The Sans sound font jumping out at the beginning of the track conveys a sense of surprise or sudden suspense, which kinda makes sense with Sans as a character. Sans is a pretty jump-scary character in Undertale if you think about it, with the dialogue he uses in any of Undertale's routes, pacifist, neutral, or genocide. With such banger lines as, "You'd be dead where you stand," "Then why'd you have to kill my brother?" and "You're gonna have a bad time." Sans has been proven to be an easily surprising character, so this inclusion makes sense for Sans' Undyne replacement. The song does transition into a nice "It's Raining Somewhere Else" to tie the track in a nice little bow, especially with how No Longer Ruined implied this role shift so long ago. Somehow, I don't hate the use of the Sans sound font in this track, as it fits how Sans would be if he were Undyne so well. I think I'll be putting Sans right above Stumbling and Fumbling because of all of this, as it's effective, but it just falls into the same kinda boring "It's Raining Somewhere Else" theming that we'll see much more throughout Waterfall. Overall, good stuff. Guys, I feel like this Waterfall replacement is gonna be a good one. First, off the bat, we got an unnecessarily fire name for this song, that being Rainfall. It's a clever play on the name "It's Raining Somewhere Else," and makes sense in the context of Waterfall as, well, rainfall sure is happening around there. Overall, this area's theme is such a mellow, chill, and rainy vibe. Maybe it's because I'm writing this in the rain, but the track really conveys what Waterfall would be like, or even just being in the middle of rainfall in general. The track only uses "It's Raining Somewhere Else" and Sans, yet it still sounds great. Most of the track feels like the beginning part of "It's Raining Somewhere Else," which, if you've seen my Undertale OST ranking video, you'd know that that is high praise. It doesn't quite feel as existential as "It's Raining Somewhere Else, and instead is more peaceful and serene. I like most of the sound fonts used in this track, but the middle part is a little iffy for me. It's still growing on me though. I personally would have liked more of the end bit, as it's the perfect playoff for the vibe of the song, and I think a little bit more may have been nice. Other than that, Rainfall is practically just if "It's Raining Somewhere Else" was an area theme, and it works. Sans is the main threat to Waterfall, so it makes sense to have his theme front and center of the area theme, and it makes for a fire song. It's not an absolute bop like Snow District, but Snow District isn't an absolute vibe like Rainfall, so there's not much of a comparison there. I think I'll be putting Rainfall right below Snow District in Amazing Tracks. Once again, thank you for cooking, Toadie! Fighting Tents is an amazing song that somehow uses dating tents as the main grounding of the song, yet is incredibly varied and fire. It fits the feel of a tenser version of the fight theme, and makes sense lore-wise to Monster Mix. Seeing as Undyne is the Asriel replacement, having dating tents' Undyne motif so prevalent here is much richer in potential. Potential we'll see more fleshed out in the future. The far future. Oh yeah, this is generally supposed to act as the fighting theme for Waterfall and onward, mainly acting as a sort of stronger monsters replacement in Monster Mix, which I quite enjoy. The upcoming monsters should be getting more difficult as Frisk has been learning more tactics to use in battle. On a separate note, I really like the inclusion of the little onions for Fighting Tense's thumbnail and art. It fits well and I just love them. Shoutouts to all of the art done in this series. Hats off to all those who contributed in that area. Seriously, it's awesome. The song itself, as already stated, is a certified banger, which shouldn't be a surprise seeing what we got for Fighting Start. Bringing back Dating Start to keep this track grounded in what we have already heard really works in this track's favor, and Snowdon Town's motif was a surprising but welcome addition. Overall, Fighting Tense is a fire theme that very well conveys a tense but still playful fighting theme, so it at least has to make it beside Fighting Start and Amazing Tracks. The real question is, does it belong to be above or below the other fight theme? It's a really tough call, but I think I'll be putting Fighting Tense just barely below Fighting Start. Fighting Start to me is just more upbeat, which makes it more fun to listen to, but really both songs are pretty equal in my eyes. They both accomplish different goals greatly. Great tracking, just great job. You Followin' Me is a pretty nice and in-character run replacement, so it fits pretty well. This track would play when Sans chases you in Waterfall, likely under the pretenses of being appointed royal guardsman for Waterfall by his brother, the king, and maybe also under the pretenses of the "you following me" shtick that he uses in Undertale. As Toadie states in the description, Sans also doesn't actively chase behind Frisk like Undyne, and instead, as Sans would, uses shortcuts to appear in front of Frisk. This is already perfectly hitting the character soundness I got from Royal Inspection and Sans, so I feel like the upcoming Sans and Papyrus tracks have great potential for being really interesting, as their characters are so understood. The song itself, while nothing insane, really works in context to the situation. It's fast-paced and seems like a chase scene, but it also seems a little laid back and insincere at the same time, which obviously fits Sans well. I like the inclusion of the Sans and It's Raining Somewhere Else motifs, but apparently there's premonition in here as well? Cool. Overall, this track perfectly fits the circumstances given, and sounds pretty good too. I'll be putting You Followin' Me and Amazing Tracks right above Deep Cleanse. It's more of a bop than the others, but doesn't have much weight behind it aside from being really character sound. Once again, another soul-centered song, we got Ilya's Integrity. Interesting name. I honestly thought it was Lila for a while, but that doesn't really matter to the track, so Ilya, the second child to fall down Mount Ehhh, is described by Toadie to be pressured into things she didn't want to do, which is interesting as she does hold the Integrity Soul. The song itself isn't actually too bad. It's not too high, so it doesn't kill my ears to listen to, and the melody is neat, easy to follow, and varied from the normal flowy Your Best Nightmare section that it's derived from. Other than that, the song is kinda not much, but I don't dislike listening to it, as the other motifs are cool, and the song doesn't feel like a complete waste of time. Anyway, I'll be putting Integrity at an unfortunate good tracks, as I would have liked to put it higher, but anywhere above Who Cares would just feel like too much of a disservice to that track. So Integrity will make it right below Who Cares and good tracks because of this. Yet another reference to It's Raining Somewhere Else with his song's title, and the title also conveys the quiet water aesthetic of the track perfectly. I feel like this track is going to be a good one. Overall, I don't really know what I was expecting. Gentle Rain is just a solid quiet water replacement, using the main theme from Rainfall, but not progressing on it like said track. I do like how Premonition is used as the backing for this track, but other than that, it's nothing too special. It provides a nice and calm atmosphere, with a little bit of mystery, but doesn't go anywhere with it like Quiet Water. Overall, I think I'm going to be putting Gentle Rain just below Catalog and good tracks, as it works with what it's got, but it isn't outstanding like others. Ah yes, the good old bird that carries you over disproportionately small gap replacement. And it somehow even uses more words than the song famous for its long title, Can You Really Call This a Hotel? I Didn't Receive a Mint on My Pillow or anything. coming in at a whopping 19 words, opposed to Toby's 18 words. For the sake of my sanity, I think I'll be shortening the track's title to Fairy Song in the script. Just know I'm really talking about down here, riding the ferry means standing on some guy named Fairy as it takes you across the lake. Speaking of the title, as Toadie states in the description of the song, the title is basically all you need to know about the track's context. The song, as implied by its name, is set to take place when Frisk needs to get across the lake and goes to ride the ferry, but riding the ferry really means standing on this goober named Fairy as it takes you across the lake. This honestly works great as a bird that carries you over a disproportionately small gap replacement. For the circumstance, the music, just everything, it works. The song itself doesn't sound too amazing, but for the goofy scenario it's set to take place in, I'd say it works. Oh, and how could I forget? The fairy song teases the upcoming Alfie's replacement for Monster Mix as well. As a maybe little known fact in the Undertale community, bird that carries you over a disproportionately small gap shares a motif with Alfie's theme. Why is that? Well, we don't exactly know, but it does add some interesting speculation and world building to Undertale's underground, so the fairy song should do the same for Monster Mix. The one motif in the fairy song is none other than his theme, a song connected to Asriel Dreamer. I think Asriel really works as an Alfie's replacement, as it's just a really interesting role shift, especially considering things like Asriel's unfortunate circumstances in the lab of the Undertale universe. So yeah, I think this is really neat, and I'm glad Toadie kept this neat reference in Monster Mix. Anyway, I've talked long enough about this track. Where should I put it? Unfortunately, looking at this track beside all the others in Monster Mix doesn't do much for it, as it's kinda just a decent bird that carries you over a disproportionately small gap replacement. And as well as it teases a cool Monster Mix unique attribute to come, I like the more Monster Mixy tracks than the Undertale-y tracks. So I'll be putting down here riding the ferry means standing on some guy named Fairy as it takes you across the lake, right above to remember indecent tracks. Alright, let's get into the Monster Mix memory replacement track. I wonder what we might have in store. Wait, is that Gaster? Yep, that's right. Monster Mix is when the world split in two. The memory replacement of the OST features only one theme, that being Gaster's theme. Is there any discretion noted in the description of the track? No, and Toadie knew what she was doing by making the memory replacement be an evolved version of Gaster's theme. As most know, memory is a theme prominently tied to Asriel, a huge character in Undertale's story. Memory, or later titled his theme, showing up in Finale, Undertale, etc. Now, I would normally say that this track has huge implications for the Asriel replacement in Monster Mix, but I have the benefit of listening to this mix before many times. So gang, bad news. Gaster isn't Asriel. I'm personally kind of glad and disappointed by this decision, and it shows with how I see the track. By the way, I'm not fully sure if the Undyne is Asriel knowledge was made fully known in Who Cares at the point of that this was put out, so... Okay, after checking again, this isn't even shared in the role shifts of Who Cares, so the question of who Asriel was at this point was still dubious. On one hand, I'm happy that the big reveal at the end of the game wasn't that the annoying dog was Gaster all along, but I would have also been interested to see where that might have been taken as well. Oh, and other bad news I might as well mention alongside this track. The annoying dog just isn't connected to the Asriel replacement, like, at all. This kinda hurts as an Asriel Flowey enjoyer, and almost puts a bitter taste in my mouth to think about this track, and it's not even bad either. The song itself is just a nice and almost happy rendition of Gaster's theme, and provides some cool world building in the Monster Mix universe. But saying that this track is a red herring is kind of a huge understatement. It directly provides a promise for a future role shift, and in the end, it doesn't deliver on it. But hey, I'm not going to take it personally, as it was an artistic choice done by Toadie for whatever reason she had, and I'm going to respect that, even if it means no spooky Gaster Dog, foamy Toby Fox final boss for the pacifist run, or whatever. Anyways, not much to say about this song. It's just as I said, a neat little happy Gaster theme repeated over and over. It's not too exciting though, doesn't change much, and seems to have little to no narrative weight, so I think I'll put When the World Split in Two in an extremely unfortunate and not my favorite tier. It's just a cool rendition of Gaster's theme, but I don't see much of a purpose for it besides giving the Goners more Monster Mix lore, I guess? Let's move on. Actually, before we move on, I'd like to give a little future DLC Stuffy Cat insight to this track and Toadie's projects. The projects that kind of are related to this track, if you squint really hard. Either way, this is just an overall opportunity for me to gush about the future projects about the other projects that Toadie's done that aren't Monster Mix that I've enjoyed. So of course I'm going to take that opportunity. In 2024, Toadie did some pretty phenomenal work for her own rendition of Underswap, an Undertale alternate universe idea where the world goes, what if Undertale, but the main characters' places were swapped like Toriel and Asgore or Undyne and Alphys, with her old switcheroo. How does this actually have anything to do with When the World Split in Two? In a minute! Actually, no, I should probably just get down to it. Spoilers for the old switcheroo. Go check it out, it's so good! But, Gaster kinda got his musical redemption from this song in that series with him replacing Flowey, one of the many spectacular artistic choices done in that series. With him officially being the Flowey replacement in that, we got a Your Best Friend replacement for him, a You Idiot replacement for him, Your Best Nightmare replacement, Finale replacement, and even a beautiful Gaster Undertale replacement. All that to say, it's not changing the placement for When the World Split in Two, but I'm a lot less frustrated with his song because my gratitude for Toadie kinda supersedes that with her. Where am I even going with this? Whatever, I guess. Shameless plug for Toadie's old switcheroo. It's actually really good. And I know it's probably not that big of a deal, but Toadie, if you're watching this, I'm not angry, just comically frustrated because you successfully tricked me as you did like so many others. Also, since I'm shouting out Toadie's projects here, I guess, Dashing Toadie Tail is fire too! I might even make a video on it. Yeah, I actually don't count on it. Anyways, let's finally move on and get back to the tier list. Alright now, this surely is going to be an interesting one. Dance Off is Monster Mix's dummy replacement. I don't feel as strongly about this one as the other battle themes, but I gotta admit, it's a banger. The fight would take place against a ghost character known as Nobody, but through being leitmotifically illiterate, noticing the song's generally feel, and seeing the glamorous look of Nobody, this is obviously Mettaton. Toadie describes that after Alphys left for the ruins, Mettaton's body started slowly running out of steam, and once it was fully powerless, Mettaton found it lacking and left it. Insert FNAF spirit being set free by M. Henry reference or year, I don't know. In the meantime, Mettaton just hangs around Waterfall hoping that no one will find them. But when Frisk does, Mettaton feels the need to show them who they are, proving that Mettaton is still known and well regarded. This is an interesting twist on the story, and really feels like a natural progression to how the circumstances would have played out if Alphys left for the ruins, so it's nice to see some character-driven consistency in there. Speaking of consistency, having the name reference the beginning of the Ghost Fight Dummy Spider Dance Monster Mix song, Face Off, the Ghost Fight replacement, is appreciated. The song itself, as I've stated before, is pretty good. It feels like a Mettaton song, which is nice, and doesn't have that dummy punchiness to it, but that's not really a bad thing, as this ain't no mad dummy theme. I like the inclusion of It's Showtime and Metal Crusher, integral parts to Mettaton's musical identity, but I feel like more could have been done with it. For me, the song felt a little stale, and I think that's because core was the main focus for most of its runtime. Now that I think about it, core being set up as the ghost fight replacement in Monster Mix might have been more of a curse than a blessing, as the motif is inherently repetitive. That being said, it doesn't take too much away from the grander Mettaton-y parts of Dance Off, so I guess it's not too bad. The Metal Crusher and It's Showtime leitmotifs are definitely the highlights of listening, and yeah, not much to say other than that. Dance Off is pretty good, and I like Mettaton replacing Mad Dummy instead of some other goner replacing Bro, but the theme these sidebar songs are founded upon is repetitive, and I like my variety. I think because of this, and please don't be too angry with me, I think I'll be putting Dance Off right below Face Off in awesome tracks. Face Off just takes more risks and is more interesting to listen to in my opinion, which just really goes to show how good that track was. But Dance Off, not as much. It's at least more of a bop than Face Off. Okay, hear me out. Pathetic House, but with Gaster's theme. Ooh! Okay. Pathetic House guess isn't that simple. So you remember the Napster book replacement? The Gaster follower in the Ruins? And you remember the Ruins dummy replacement, Napster book? Well, what if I told you that the Ruins dummy replacement actually has a house in Waterfall, is just Napster book from Undertale, and okay, do you see the problem here? I guess it's not really a problem, but it is kinda confusing for me. Pathetic House Guests takes place in Napstablook's home, and okay, so is Napstablook the Ruins dummy replacement in Monster Mix, or is Bro just Napstablook? Because they kinda seem like both. The Ruins dummy wasn't involved with Napstablook's house in Undertale, from my knowledge, so... Okay, I think I'm thinking way too deep into this track, and should just rank it, so I don't go insane or the way of Gaster or something. Toadie describes that Napstablook actually took the Gaster followers in which is nice, and it seems that they get along quite well. The song itself is, as I said before, basically just Pathetic House but with Gaster's theme sprinkled throughout. Something that I didn't catch on to, but will definitely praise with this track, is that another non-OST song was snuck in here as well, that being Happy Town. And guess who had Happy Town in their boss theme? That's right, none other than the Napstablook replacement, the Donut Gaster follower thing. That detail was pretty nice to come across, but other than that, this track kinda just confused me, but was overall decent for what it was trying to replicate. So it'll sit at a decent bottom of good tracks. I know, putting the Pathetic House replacement above tracks like When the World Split in Two is pretty wild, but my tier list, my rules? Spooktune remix, let's go! Honestly, fire. No cap, full ghost-like transparency. This track is really decent. Apparently, this track was also made by Napstablook? Props, buddy. This is definitely a step up from the Undertale counterpart to this. I think why I like this song so much is because of its blending of spooky-themed instruments. Instruments you'd likely hear in a haunted house themed or Luigi's Mansion inspired track, and it works. It genuinely sounds like a fully fleshed out composition of Spooktune. As for the lore of what 201X means, I don't think I'm even going to mess with that. I made the mistake of thinking that I knew what the 20s and X's meant in my school Undertale Yellow review, and got absolutely owned by someone who knew what they were actually talking about. And somehow I didn't even learn how the time worked after all of that. Long story short, cool song bro, I am not gonna mess with the title one bit. I really wanted to put this track higher, but I think for now, it's only fair to put it just above Training Star and Good Tracks. Solid. Okay guys, it's a Spooktune remix, but as the Spookwave replacement? Actually, I'm not angry or disappointed about this one bit. The unstable waviness of Spooktune was never my favorite, so I'll take another fire Spooktune remix from Napstablook. Wait, 201Y? Well, at least I stopped trying to make sense of the 20s and X's last entry, or else I might have just died when seeing this title. Okay, so for the song. It actually has a non-Spooktune introduction on, I think, the organ, and then the plucked strings, and I really like it. The organ at the beginning always reminds me of Undertale Yellow's Forlorn, but it doesn't take any focus away from the track, thankfully. As for the remix, it's just as good, if not better than Napsterbook's 201X remix, as it feels more like a song in this context, with the introduction and all of that. Once again, I would absolutely love to put this higher, but I think just above the last track, Spooktune 201X in good tracks will have to do for Spooktune 201Y. Alright, so far so good with these Napsterbook replacement tracks. I can't wait to see what Toadie did with a Gula Day replacement. Look how they massacred my boy! His theme is just not fun to listen to, I'm sorry. So, apparently the Gaster followers took up music as one of Napsterbook's traditions, trying it out for themselves, and yeah, sorry guys, it just ain't cutting it. And hey, they tried their best, which is admirable and commendable, good try, but it's just not a banger, sorry guys. I find the song perfectly conveys how the Gaster followers are made out to be in Monster Mix, just vaguely interesting followers of someone who isn't around anymore, effectively making them seem like pathetic lost puppies. The song gives me the feeling that they tried to play Gaster's theme on piano or something, but didn't know how to play it at all. Hey, it even has one of those things that I do so often on piano, where you unintentionally press two notes at the same time. That's not going to change how I see the song though, as it's just as messy and not enjoyable to listen to as in real life. And on top of that, the song has the audacity to take the name of one of the most climactic and emotional songs from Undertale, further confusing the Gaster Azrael connection too. Yeah, sorry, it's not making it high at all. In fact, I think I'm putting his theme at the bottom of rather not listen tier. Is the concept of Gaster followers trying their best to replicate their leader's theme interesting? Yeah. Is it effectively used here? Nah. Or I guess technically yeah, because it was probably meant to sound bad in the first place. Should Napsterbook have helped the followers cook more on their song? Who's to say? All I know is that I don't really like listening to the song, and as well as it conveys the ideas well, it almost conveys them too well, making me like the song less. Anyway, yeah, bottom of the tier list you go, his theme. That's what you get for replacing Gula Day like that. Garbage Day is the chill replacement, and it confuses me a little. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Undertale's chill had no motifs, right? I mean, I fully understand sneaking Gaster's theme into Garbage Day, as it's a theme for the Gaster followers when they decide to join in on Napsterbook's tradition of lying on the floor and feeling like garbage, but why is Death by Glamour here too? I mean, I get it, kinda. Death by Glamour's main motif is core, which is pretty highly connected to Gaster, as he made the core. So it would sort of make sense to have Death by Glamour and Gaster followers centered track, I guess? Who am I kidding? I don't really get it at all. The only other thing I could think of for this theme having Death by Glamour in it is that maybe Undertale's chill had dummy in it somewhere, but I don't think that's right either. So it would lead me to believe that this motif is placed here because it's the tense intro part of the track. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to try to decipher this strange motific placement and just talk about the actual track from here on. The track itself definitely feels like a chill replacement, and if you know my likings to certain tracks, that gap, you know I like a good existentially unsure track. But I don't know what this track is about. I mean, I don't really feel that coming from this track. Just a vaguely unsure feeling that I can't quite describe. I will say that I really like the idea of the Gaster followers deciding to also take up on Napsterbook's tradition of lying on the floor and feeling like garbage, as that suits their unsure and distinct situation they're in. I think the track also works quite well and I enjoy it quite a bit. But I will admit that the strange Death by Glamour placement consistently confuses me while listening to it, which will probably bring it down just a little for me. I think I'm gonna give Garbage Day the benefit of the doubt this time, and I think I'll put it at a solid bottom of awesome tracks. It's effective and works well as a chill replacement. Nice. Rage Against the Mystery Machine is the Thundersnout replacement, and it shows. That it's completely underrated and a bop. A little fact I've withheld from you all about the Gaster followers is the fact that they've mainly taken up an interest in making contraptions and machines while they can, paralleling Gaster's inventiveness quite well. Rage Against the Mystery Machine would likely play when Frisk and the Gaster followers play a game on this Mystery Machine, which was one of the Gaster's inventions but has been turned into a carnival type game. This is a really neat concept, and the song works quite well with it as well. Speaking of the song, it only uses one motif, that being the Trouble Dingle from Undertale, a non-OST jingle that, just listen to this thing. As well as this shouldn't be surprising, Toadie was able to make this weird repeating jingle into a decent song, which is impressive and awesome. The song itself is kinda short though, and is just a silly Thundersnail replacement, so it won't be getting too high. But it's important to see how great this song managed to be under its strange circumstances. I'll put Rage Against the Mystery Machine right above Who Cares in good tracks. It's pretty alright. Back with the Monster Mix original songs, another soul-centered song, we have Kritz's Perseverance. This track tells the story of a nice human named Kritz with a perseverant soul, the first human to fall into the underground. Wow, was Kritz a nerd though, as he went up to the mountain curious of plant life and bird watching, only for him to find the opening to the underground. As Toadie states, curiosity is what led him up there, but Curie also let him down. To clear up that, actually, air here, yes. Krit's appearance is very nerd-like, and even kinda looks like the nerd emoji as well. Which does not help his case with his care for plant life and birds. Nerd! The song somehow makes all of this sound better, because the main sound font used for the Perseverance theme is the most nerd emoji sound font that I could think of using. As for the song itself, it's nothing too special, as it's just another soul song, but everything ironically surrounding Kritz in this song makes it too good not to put higher than the other soul-centered songs. Or does it? Not really, actually. After re-examining Ilya's integrity, I think I like that conceptually and music-wise more than Perseverance. But it's pretty close. Because of that, I'll be putting Perseverance right below Integrity and Good Tracks. Quite an upset for the Temmie Village replacement, we have Spiderton Abbey. As implied by the track and motifs, the Temmies are replaced by Mephit's Spider Family from Monster Mix. Toadie states in the description of this track that they talk with prideful lips and an elitist mentality, acting as though they're better than those shopkeepers down in the Snow District, and they even claim to be better than their own mother at baking pastries. With this high calling already being set in place, how does Spiderton Abbey hold up to these standards? Beautifully. The song oozes of some sort of elitist, I'm rich and better than you vibes, dating start carrying the song throughout, and the spider dance leitmotif hitting the ball out of the park. Ghost fight is a motif in the song too, but I didn't notice it that prominently, so sorry I guess. All that being said, Spiderton Abbey perfectly conveys what I believe Toadie was going for in this track, and I enjoy it profusely. The track is very good, but to show those prideful spiders what's up, I think I'll put Spiderton Abbey right below Pastry Parlor and Awesome Tracks. That'll show you elitist arachnids who's the one in charge here. And also Pastry Parlor is just better. Sorry, not sorry. Man, you silly spiders kind of fell off with this one. Cider and Scones is the Tem Shop replacement, and I don't know why, but it just doesn't have the same feeling Spiderton Abbey had for me. I think the instrumentation works pretty well in the song, but most of all I can hear in the song is Spider Dance and none of Dating Start or Ghost Fight, which is a little disappointing. I don't have much to say about this track. It's decent and sounds alright, but just reminds me of the better Pastry Parlor track that I could be listening to instead. It sounds alright and still fits with the prideful atmosphere of the Spiderton Abbey, being fancy with the plucked strings and whatnot. I don't know, I just don't enjoy it as much as the other tracks. It's overall not bad, but just seems to be lacking something. I'll be putting Cider and Scones just below Man's Best Friend for all this. Overall, not too bad, just could have been better. Well, Riggidy Roos, it looks like we're nearing the end of Waterfall, specifically now with a Nya replacement. Hey-ya! First off, the title is perfect for the lazy bones that is Sans, but also conveys a sort of trying a little, as he is ultimately doing what his brother wants him to do, to make him happy. There's even some dialogue in the description of this song that reads, Hey-ya! Sans, you're supposed to be intimidating! No human is going to fear you with a lazy greeting. Let me hear your war cry. Let the spirit out. Let me hear you roar. Okay. Hey, top tier dialogue there. I especially love how Papyrus's encouragement mirrors that of his Undertale personal trainer mentality. And Sans is kind of just Sans. The song itself feels a good amount like a song that might play when you fight Sans, but more punchy and Undyne-like, similar to how Monster Mix's Sans was configured. The song works pretty well with its Sans, It's Raining Somewhere Else, and Premonition leitmotifs. Cool. But in the end, in a similar sense to Undertale's Nya, it is basically outclassed in every way when it comes to the Chad actual battle theme of a song that comes directly afterward. All things considered, it's a decent replacement, but it's inherently less than the next track, so I can't put it high knowing that. It's kind of repetitive now that I think of it, but the percussion is constantly reminding me of Megalovania's percussion. I think with careful consideration of where to put this track, I think I'll put it right below Here Comes the Boom in Awesome Tracks. Great! Here we go. Here's the Chad version of Hey-ya I was looking for. Well, the Spear of Justice replacement, Might Fight, is here, and definitely carries a lot of what the previous track was missing. The song seems faster in general, transitions into the It's Raining Somewhere Else motif sooner, and also it introduces the Megalovania motif. I'm not sure how to feel about this particular placement. I've always held the belief that Megalovania wasn't Sans's boss theme. Heck, I'm pretty sure I've made a video by now that has me yapping about it. I have not! But how does that criticism translate to this track? Well, it basically doesn't translate at all. Yeah, I really don't mind having Megalovania in this track, mainly because of one reason, and that's Monster Mix's No Mercy route. Okay, so short side tangent here. Sans is the Undyne replacement in Monster Mix, right? So that would mean that there has to be a battle against a true hero replacement for Sans and Monster Mix's No Mercy route as well, right? And what would that thematically be? Well, it would make most sense for it to be Megalovania. Heck, it's even made better that Megalovania is in this track, as in Undyne's Spear of Justice, there's a huge focus on ruins, so the similarities are there, and it works. All of this criticism was also made way before the Undertale 10th anniversary, where Sans just has Megalovania as his normal battle theme, so yeah. Oh yeah, the track also changes keys pretty early on in the song, like Spear of Justice, which is appreciated, but it changes keys right near the end as well, and I'm pretty sure references Bring It In Guys, which is cool too. I also really like the da 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 focusing on It's Raining Somewhere Else featured in this track, as it really just feels nice to hear. The Megalovania section also isn't too serious, and is somehow made out to sound goofy and more Sans-like, which is appreciated. One of the only things I have against this track is the ending, as it kind of just feels like it randomly stops and doesn't have a nice sounding resolution. But Spear of Justice basically has the same theme, so I think I can forgive the track for this. It's going to be pretty difficult to rank this one, as I feel like other tracks kind of do more, but I also really like this one too, so I'm not sure where to put this one. In the end, I think it's best to place Might Fight and Awesome tracks just barely below Melting Under Pressure. I just feel like Melting Under Pressure has cooler ideas and is a more impactful song, but Might Fight is so in character for Sans that it just barely rivals it. Overall, just below Melting Under Pressure is going to be where Might Fight goes, as it's a pretty great song, just Melting Under Pressure has more interesting ideas and concepts behind it. Nice job, Might Fight! Now, at last, let's move on to the fabled Hotland. Finally, an actually good song! Only kidding, of course. Just gotta love the ooh replacement. All that being said, though, this track actually has a good amount to say lore-wise, as it's the first track in Monster Mix's Hotland. Nightmarish Ambience explains that Monster Mix's Hotland has effectively been turned into an autumn wonderland. Trees are sprouting from the ground, monsters are baffled. Isn't it too hot? Not if you've got plenty of water and soil that a certain scientist has messed with. And when you're right next to rainfall, water's certainly not going to be an issue. Gotta say, I do like the idea of Azrael, the royal scientist, turning Hotland into a more plant-based and ecological environment. This not only somberly mirrors Asgore and Toriel's care for plant life, the full weight of this snippet being quite impactful once we figure out what happened to the parents, but also is a nice reference to how Azrael himself is tied to plants. He was a flower in Undertale, after all. Along with this, the implications of having the only motif in a previously motifless track be You Idiot is interesting as well. It could either be a tease that Flowey will be the main character in Monster Mix's Hotland, or just more Azrael Flowey leitmotif shenanigans. All things considered, as the track cheekily references Your Best Nightmare with Nightmarish being in the title, it's probably going to be Flowey. All that being said, yeah, this track is basically nothing. It's the ooh sound played in 3 different pitches to make the You Idiot sounding track, but in the end, it's ooh, something I labeled as not even a song in my Undertale OST ranking. Now yes, Nightmarish Ambience is much more of a song than ooh, but that's not exactly hard to do. I like the ideas around this track, but in the end, it's barely even a song at all, so I'll be putting it at the bottom of not my favorite tier, as it's not a song that I don't want to listen to, but it's also not too interesting either. Howdy is the full introduction of the Monster Mix Alphys role shift, Azrael Dreamer. This was teased a bit earlier with Down Here riding the ferry means standing on some guy named Ferry as it takes you across the lake, having his theme be the main motif of the song, where Alphys' leitmotif originally was. This is a really interesting role shift for Monster Mix, as Azrael in Undertale was deeply affected by what was done in the labs by Alphys, so having the subversion take place is interesting, and I can't wait to see where it goes. The description of the track describes how Azrael took up his dad's passion for gardening and turned the abandoned lab into a gardening experimentation zone, which is really sweet and goes along with Azrael's character well. Azrael is also explained to be caring for and looking after one of his new friends. What friend is this? Well, you'll just have to wait and see in the It's Showtime replacement. Howdy very much seems similar to Kara's Greetings, name, style, and all. Once Upon a Time is mainly used throughout this song, which could symbolize his care for Kara, but who knows, honestly. It's just cool that I find it so similar to Monster Mix's Kara's theme, as they're pretty connected as seen in Undertale. I feel like this track could have incredibly benefited from being more focused on the his theme leitmotif, as that's Asriel's theme, but it's still nice all throughout. Finally, Asriel is also said to occasionally tag along with Frisk and Kara, which I enjoy greatly opposed to Alphys' mechanics in Undertale. I feel like in-person help throughout goofy challenges would be much more fun and provide a lot of better opportunities for character development than just social media updates and phone calls here and there. Overall, a really decent track as it conveys Asriel well and sets him up as an interesting character to see further in Monster Mix. I think I'll be putting Howdy just below Stumbling and Fumbling in good tracks, as it's good, but other tracks like Sands and the such convey much more interesting things about said characters. Well, it's time for the It's Showtime replacement, introducing one of the biggest music-based characters seen throughout Hotland, the Mettaton replacement. Who is Monster Mix's Mettaton replacement? Well, it is none other than Flowey the Flower himself. Okay, so if you all are wondering why I'm putting so much stress on Mettaton from Undertale, it's mostly because Mettaton's themes and songs are a huge part of his character as seen in Undertale. Without Mettaton's It's Showtime, Death by Glamour, Oh One True Love, and so on, he wouldn't be as much of a compelling character. So, in my opinion, his replacement needs to have this kind of deep connection to music as well. Does Flowey fit this? Well, we'll just have to see with his upcoming tracks. Speaking of Flowey, his best friend's description tells us quite a lot about his personality and future role in Monster Mix. Toadie states, "This flowery bud definitely isn't trying to be your best friend," hence why this track is named his best friend. "Legend has it that one day this flower will bring salvation upon the underground. But that's just a story, right? This cute little thing." Along with this, the track has some very interesting dialogue, seemingly coming from Flowey, saying, "Another human? So that's how it is, huh? Are you trying to get all friendly with this one as well, Asriel?" This could be in reference to a possible connection Asriel had to one of the previously fallen humans that Frisk has set out to find, but is probably more talking about Asriel's connection to Kara. All this is really intriguing and, along with the song's tone, shows a more skeptical and annoyed Flowey instead of the terrifying and sadistic Flower we knew from Undertale. The song itself is alright, but nothing too crazy. Its main motif is Your Best Friend, and it works well as a Flowey being annoyed with Asriel and Frisk theme. But it isn't much more than that. Oh yeah, this song also has another motif in it, but for the sake of later impact, I'll leave this one be. Let's just say for now, this flower's role shift is not what it appears to be on the surface. Other than that, his best friend is the definition of just okay. It's a bouncy but slower version of Your Best Friend and isn't too great to listen to, but it's also very interesting given all of the interesting details that come with it. I'll be putting his best friend above Man's Best Friend as it contributes more music-wise to Monster Mix's story, but isn't too compelling with that music. Next up we have the Metal Crusher replacement, Weed Whacker. Cool name by the way. This is basically just a Metal Crusher-ified version of Your Best Friend, in that little build-up part and finale, and it works quite well. I enjoy the track as a Flowey suddenly trying to probably kill you theme, and think it works well in context to what's been set up before. I like the little dialogue we get from Asriel about this attack. Asriel saying, "I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong. Flowey's never done this before." Just nice and in character, that's all. The track gives us further description on Flowey and Asriel's dynamic, stating that they act more as siblings, protecting and looking out for one another, but also easily getting on each other's nerves. As I stated before, this track uses the build-up part of finale, and personally I felt it necessary to point out in this description that this is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout Monster Mix's Hotland. I'm still not too sure how to feel about it, because finale is my favorite track from Undertale, but is it too overused? Is it because Flowey has so little music to work with? I'm not too sure right now. All that matters though is that this track is overall pretty good. It conveys a sudden attack from Monster Mix's Flowey well, and provides further insight into the new Alphys Metaton dynamic that Azrael and Flowey will share throughout Hotland. I'll put Weed Whacker at the bottom of awesome tracks for being a decent song that conveys its ideas well, but not too high for being a bit hard to listen to and kinda repetitive. Alright, well, Riggidy Roos, the vastness of Hotland awaits. What a mystical song. Monster Mix has a great Another Medium replacement for us, and wow is it good. The song starts out with an interestingly done ooh variation, then kicking the track into high gear with falling repetitive piano notes. It truly puts me in such a trance hearing those notes, something I can only describe as hearing Another Medium's notes played at the beginning of its song as well. The song seems to repeat this a lot, but right when it seems to get a little repetitive, the Your Best Friend theme jumps in on trumpet, connecting this awesome area theme to Flowey, the Metaton replacement. I really like this, as Metaton is seen as very connected to Hotland and its people through his battle theme, Death by Glamour. So to have that idea flipped on its head, the area theme instead presenting Flowey's great influence on the environment is just great. During the Your Best Friend part, you can even make out little background references to Waterfall, which I honestly don't know what to say about. I think it's a well done and neat detail, but I'm not sure if it's a reference to the actual Waterfall area theme from Undertale, or the Washawas who use it as their theme, or maybe because Another Medium draws from Waterfall in its composition makeup. In any case, it's great and I really like it. Then to finish out the last main section of the song before it repeats its sections over again, we get the dating start motif played on some wind instrument, tying it all together under a communal-based idea of what Hotland is. Or maybe it's actually in reference to fighting, since dating start is the fighting start motif? I don't know. Anyways, all that being said, this track is really good. It's not particularly phenomenal, but it's still an amazing Flowey-based Another Medium, and works really well. I don't think this track particularly instills a feeling of exploring a plant-based Hotland, but instead more so a feeling of adventure and mystery, which is arguably better. Branching Out is such a great area theme, but it's a little repetitive in some areas, and confusing with its motifs in some cases. All that being said, Branching Out will be put just above Rainfall and Amazing Tracks. I know I sorta made it sound like Rainfall and Snow District were inseparable, but I was wrong. I think it has more compelling of a story to tell than Rainfall, but Snow District is so much of a bop while also being aesthetically correct in universe. So that's why Branching Out is going to be placed there. Great! I don't have much to say about this song. Whoa, so warms! Is the ooh-ah, so heats replacement. I think it's also the most lacking ooh-ah replacement. At least the other two were somewhat vibes. This one is kinda just awkward. I can't really put my finger on it. It probably doesn't help that the Temmie village motif is downplayed greatly in the song, which makes it harder to hear. I will say that I liked how the percussion gave off that Rocky Mountain vibe, but in this Hotland, lore-wise, this is just a settings thing, so that shouldn't even make sense. I'm rambling on empty here. Anyways, our last ooh-ah replacement unfortunately goes at the top of decent tracks. I don't know. I just don't care for it as much as the others. Sorry, Tem. No hard feelings, alright? Play Rough is quite the interesting track because it's set to play against the Canine Royal Guard placed in Hotland, where RG1 and RG2 were stationed, but doesn't have an Undertale OST equivalent because of this. The song uses a bass line of dog noises, anticipation, and stronger monsters, which works well with the unique melodies that we'll put on top of this firm foundation. I like the anticipation approach to this track, but I'm telling you, when it gets to the halfway point of the song and the strings kick in with one of the trailer motifs, it's just amazingly peak from what the song was going for. Oh yeah, this track interestingly uses the motifs of the Undertale Xbox trailer and spoiler-free Deltarune trailer, which I find really creative and fun. Dating Star also takes a good portion of the track, which makes sense as well, seeing as it's the battle theme of Monster Mix. Undertale's dog song even used Undertale's main theme, so this internal continuity is awesome and great to see. Overall, this song was not something we wanted or needed, but something I'll 100% appreciate for how good it is. Granted, some parts of just the repeated bass line of this track make it feel slow, and I would have loved to hear more of that halfway part of the track, so it ain't perfect. Overall, Play Rough is a great song and is well deserving of just above Here Comes the Boom and Awesome Tracks. It's fun and works great with what it's got, but almost seems held back from its full potential, so it'll go right here in Awesome Tracks. Continuing with the Monster Mix original tracks, we have, oh boy, another soul track! Say hello to Alice, yet another one of the humans who previously fell into the underground. She fell with Jackie, the bravery soul, and was mainly motivated to go into the underground because of Jackie, alongside wanting to show the monsters who must have been trapped in the underground by humans some kindness from a human. Very nice, Alice. I'm sure that definitely worked out. Yeah, no. Whoops! Anyways, Kindness is just another soul-centered track telling a vaguely interesting story of one of the fallen humans on top of a Your Best Nightmare mini-theme, Soul Purpose, and Once Upon a Time. I would say that this is the most inoffensive soul-centered track, but the instrumentation that plays the Once Upon a Time motif at the end is just off. I'm not sure if I like it because it's different, or I don't because it hurts my ears. I don't think I'll put it in Rather Not Listen tier, as I feel it's a bit too harsh, but I surely will put it below Patience and Decent Tracks. Sorry, I know that's not the kindest placement, but it'd be even less kind to withhold the truth from you, Alice. Friendship is a song I'd expect to be the Asriel theme. It predominantly features his theme, and somehow even sneaks Deltarune's friendship in there as well? Wait a minute, that's not Deltarune? What? Don't know what this friendship motif is from, but I'll dig it. It's kind of a banger. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, Monster Mix's friendship, that's right. This track describes how instead of Hotland being filled with Flowey-based minigames like Undertale's Metaton, it's mainly split between goofy interactions with Asriel and interactions with Flowey. This being the hotel replacement would originally mean it'd play during the Cooking with a Killer Robot replacement scene for Monster Mix, but the description tells us that that is not the case. I generally like this change, as I feel like we weren't given really too much time to hang out with Alphys in Undertale, so to have a bigger chance to interact with the Alphys replacement in Monster Mix is nice. The song itself is just so happy, carefree, bouncy, and lighthearted. His theme works absolutely perfect as this tonally happy track, and Toby Fox's friendship just adds that deeper care that's so nice to hear. And to end off this track, and tie us back to Flowey, we have Your Best Friend coming in and then being transformed into the same happy-go-lucky tone that the song has set throughout. As probably stated before, this track would play during the antics that would ensue with Asriel, and I feel it works really well with this idea. I really like this track. It just makes me want to take a walk in my neighborhood and enjoy the beauty of living. It's so good. I'll put it above Pressure Washer and Amazing Tracks, as it's so effective I can't put it anywhere lower, but having it this high seems dangerous in itself, so I'll be fine with this placement. Awesome track! Fiendship is the Can You Really Call This a Hotel? I didn't receive a mint on my pillow or anything replacement, and it doesn't show? Well, as described before, the originally Metaton Antics-based tracks have and will be changed to suit interactions between either Asriel or Flowey, as Flowey isn't always the main focus in Monster Mix's Hotland. Toadie describes that this track would play in interactions with Flowey where his best friend wouldn't fit, and likely when Flowey is being suspicious of you. The song itself uses two leitmotifs, You Idiot and Your Best Friend. It's kinda slow and reminds me of Kara's reprimand, but the Your Best Friend motif at the end ties it all back together and piques my interest a little. Other than that, it's kind of a lackluster song with nothing much going on in it. Yeah, it has more of Monster Mix's skeptical and annoyed Flowey, but it isn't saved from its meh feel. I'll put Fiendship right below Perseverance because of all of this. Next up, we have the Super Mario Kart theme. Wait, no, that's not right. Oh, right, this is Monster Mix, isn't it? Say hello to the live report replacement, Shopping Carts. Apparently this track would play when our main characters participate in the first 2 laps of a heated shopping cart race. You see, as Toadie states in the description of this track, monsters are prone to having misconceptions about the extremes to which humans take things. One of these misconceptions is about what human teenagers do with shopping carts, thinking that they have genuinely modified shopping carts built for racing around it, as opposed to having people run around with the carts. This is a really cute idea and I enjoy it profusely. The detail of over-exaggerating human culture is also sound with Alphys' belief that anime is human history, so this all works well. On top of that, the song sounds so authentic to that of Mario Kart or just racing music in general, which is just so cool. The track sounds so non-Undertale that I can barely even pick out the motifs in the song, except for near the end with Once Upon a Time. The song boasts his theme, Thundersnail, and of course, Once Upon a Time as its motifs, which all make perfect sense. This likely taking place with Azrael, Thundersnail was all about racing snails, and Once Upon a Time always works. Overall, this is a really solid track. Top of awesome tracks you go, Shopping Carts, great work. Okay, so you know the last cart, Shopping Carts? Well, imagine that but at 1.25 speed. That's Plastic Pre for you. This isn't even too much of a criticism on the track, more on how racing games like Mario Kart typically use a sped up version of their track theme for the final lap, so it makes sense to have the same here. This doesn't change how uninteresting of a change this is though, which is kinda disappointing to see. If you know my Undertale OST tier list ranking video, you know that Death Report is one of my favorite tracks from Undertale, so to have its replacement be a sped up version of the live report replacement is a bit disheartening. I think this track could have soared with possibilities if it was given more of the over-the-top treatment Undertale's Death Report was given. Instead, all we got was a faster version of shopping carts and a little detail that along with the shopping cart racing misconceptions, monsters also believe that humans just pass around any old plastic cup instead of trophies as awards, which is pretty funny, I'll admit. Anyways, I think I'll put Plastic Pre right beside Reprimand in good tracks, as it's just a speed-altered version of a better song like Reprimand. Say hello to yet another roll shift, this one being that of the So Sorry roll shift. Now, So Sorry and Undertale and the respective wrong enemy was a bit lackluster in my opinion, so how does this Monster Mix replacement stack up to this? Quite greatly, really. So Sorry is replaced with River Person. You know, that one NPC who fast travel transports you in Undertale, and probably talks about Gaster for some reason. I really enjoy this replacement, and River Person's battle theme is even more enjoyable. I don't quite know why the name has the word plus off motif that all of the Ghost Monster Mix replacement tracks have, so I'll just chalk it up to coincidence. The reason why River Person is fighting against Frisk and Kara in the first place is because they offered to take them on a boat ride directly to the king. But little did they know, River Person meant directly taking their souls to the king, hence the battle. Toadie also describes that River Person, through the battle, is easily dissuaded from the battle, and only impulsively took the opportunity to fight them because they saw the chance to be the hero that monster kind needed. By the end of the battle, no matter how it ends up, the boat would bring Frisk and Kara back to where the ride started. I really like this idea, and I feel like this track conveys this well. The song is mostly original, which I love, and the only motif being that of Quiet Water, which also makes sense, seeing as River Person was originally from Waterfall. The track itself is just a simple bop, and the trumpet absolutely carries the second melody of the song, right behind the more 8-bit sounding instrument used first. Overall, Drop Off is really catchy, and I really like the ideas behind it. The song isn't too crazy though, and rather short, so because of all of this, I'll put it just above Face Off and Awesome Tracks. Oh, and speaking of the Ghost Fight motif Monster Mix replacement tracks... So remember how Spider Dance from Undertale was an absolute bop? Well, don't you worry about its Monster Mix replacement because it's an absolute bop in its own right. Knockoff is the Spider Dance replacement, holding true to the similar naming motif that Face Off and Dance Off shared, and successfully completing the mini-boss Ghost Fight replacement track trifecta. This track would play as Frisk fights against the Diamond Head Kids, who are normally stationed near the core, but since they haven't seen a human in forever, they don't take their jobs too seriously. In the meantime, these diamond-headed goofs have made themselves by far the most MTT brand die-hard Mettaton fans, with some absolutely fire Mettaton and Mettaton EX costumes. Of course, as Toadie states, seeing a human or two makes them realize they've still got a job to do. So despite their totally awesome outfits, they're gonna have to get their hands a little dirty. This all makes sense to be connected to Nobody's Dance Off, having Core, Another Medium, and Death by Glamour as motifs. The track does an amazing job at conveying a heavily Mettaton-inspired boss theme, using Core as the main connector, just like Death by Glamour, and making the whole thing seem just like another big dance party. I personally enjoy the part where it did the Spider Dance, "Let me break it down for you" moment halfway through the song, where it goes back to the core of the song, then amazingly introduces the signature Death by Glamour opening section. Just brilliant. And then, on top of that, ending off the track so similarly to Death by Glamour as well, it's great. I know this is a bit unfair because I enjoy Death by Glamour so much, but hey, if the song works, it works. And I'm not gonna hold the knockoff aesthetic against it. Due to this, I'll put knockoff all the way above No Longer Rude in awesome tracks. It just has the pizzazz that I needed from a Mettaton-inspired Spider Dance, but it's not crazy good. So I believe right below Suburbs works quite fine. And hello, tonal shift! Hall of Shame is the Monster Mix 01 True Love replacement, and surely takes much more of a melancholic and somber approach to the concept. This theme would likely play when Frisk and Kara are in an Asgore memorial hall with Azrael. A little but beautiful detail being that Papyrus was the one who commissioned it, which makes sense as he's the king now. And he still deeply cares for others. The track is mainly backed by Small Shock, with little bits of heartbreaking Bergentrucken, heartache, and determination sprinkled for good measure. The song is just so sad. The name and Azrael's sprite implying a deep, hurting tragedy under Azrael's happy-go-lucky shell, it's just so somber. Don't be ashamed, Azrael. Don't blame yourself. Man, I just want someone to give GoBro a hug. In this song, I especially like how the shared heartache Asgore motif is played on piano, as it just ties this tragic scene all together so well. Oh yeah, and this being the 01 True Love replacement also leads me to expect a sadder version of this for the fans replacement. Sincerely can't wait for that. All this being said, the song is good and emotional, but just doesn't seem as impactful as it could. Yes, I get it. Most of the song is supposed to be based on implications, and it works really well in that respect, but still. For now, I think I'll put Hall of Shame at the bottom of amazing tracks, which I know might seem crazy right now, but know that later this track will get what it truly deserves in the For the Fans replacement. Wait! I just realized that this is the 71st track of Monster Mix, the numerical replacement for Undertale OST's Undertale. Cool! O Dungeon Monster Mix replacement here, and it's not like O Dungeon at all. This is obviously fine, as Toadie stated before how the previously Mettaton minigame-centered tracks would be split in interactions with Flowey and Azrael, so this opposite is totally okay. You know what's not okay? Hall of Blame. Okay, I know that sounds bad, but I gotta be honest, this just ain't cutting it for me. It's just Small Shock and You Idiot, that's about it, with a tiny bit of variation. I will say that I like the implications behind this track a good amount, as Toadie describes that Flowey isn't exactly thrilled to see Frisk in the Memorial Hall. Why is this? Because Flowey thinks Frisk isn't taking the Memorial Hall respectively or has bad intentions? Or is there something else, a deeper, more intricate reason at play? Right now, all we have is speculation in this track. I will admit that the Flowey Small Shock tie-in is pretty cool too, but I don't have much else to say about this track. It doesn't necessarily sound bad, I actually quite like the instrumentation at play, but the track is just very lacking. But that's totally fine. Not every Monster Mix track replacement has to be insanely layered and or an absolute bop to listen to. It's just that this one I find not very entertaining. I at least like listening to it more than the soul-centered tracks, so above integrity and good tracks you go, Hall of Blame. Well folks, we finally made it to the last soul-centered track, that being Ellen's Justice. Now, for any of you wondering, no, Clover Undertale Yellow ain't dead or changed. This is a separate Undertale AU after all, come on now. Toadie explains in the description of Justice that Ellen was the 5th human to fall down, was quite the stoic type, but was also willing to show compassion when the time needed it. The reason Ellen climbed the mountain was for self-discovery, not even seeking justice or anything. I'll admit that's kind of disappointing story-wise. The song itself, I feel, almost perfectly conveys this character through sound fonts, right next to how Perseverance sound font conveyed, actually. The song is pretty neat all things considered, but I will have to bring it down a bit due to the lack of potential character-wise. Integrity, my favorite soul-centered track so far, was able to sound nice while telling an interesting story through the character trait of integrity, and Ellen's tale just doesn't do justice. So, sorry to do this to you, Ellen, but I'll have to put Justice below Perseverance in good tracks. Its sound font is decent, but the story just seems a bit too cliche for me. Sorry, partner. Overgrown is yet another hotel replacement? Yeah, Monster Mix was lucky enough to have 2 hotel replacements. Friendship for the more minigame use of the track, and Overgrown for the actual hotel itself. What kind of hotel does this play in? Well, Mettaton's hotel, of course. You see, when Mettaton's body was still up and running, this hotel was made, but after Alfie's move to the ruins and the robotic form ran out of power, the hotel has been pretty empty ever since. But of course, as this hotel is in Hotland, and therefore under Azrael and Flowey's jurisdiction, it surely wasn't safe from their botanical overtaking. The song conveys this idea quite well, as it mainly features Hotel's bouncy beat as the foundation of the song, and adds the You Idiot, Your Best Friend, and finale motifs over time. I actually quite like this, as it truly makes the hotel feel more Flowey run than Mettaton ruled, which is nice. I never thought I'd like a hotel replacement without the Undertale motif, but Your Best Friend and the build-up part of finale substitutes it perfectly. And of course, you can't forget about the oddly mysterious but calming string-like introduction of You Idiot. It's all just so good. In the end, I like the song probably more than I should, but it's still a fairly good area theme. I think I'll put it right below Someone's Home in awesome tracks, as it's a good area theme, but is mainly carried by an unoriginal basis, which I can't bring myself to put over more creative takes on tracks, like that of Someone's Home. Great job! So, as another reminder, if you've forgotten from the premonition replacement, Pastry Parlor, these usually serious, dramatic songs and moments have been changed very much due to how Grillby's role is different than Sans. Just thought I'd bring that up, because as well as this may be the It's Raining Somewhere Else replacement, it surely doesn't feel like it in the traditional sense. Bar and Grillby would play when, likely meeting around the empty hotel, Grillby invites Frisk back to the Sub-Zero suburbs to enjoy some dinner at his bar and grill. If you remember from Pastry Parlor, Grillby and Muffet share a restaurant together, Muffet using it as a pastry parlor during the day, and Grillby using it as a bar and grill at night. So instead of Undertale's Sans Frisk hangout at the hotel restaurant, Monster Mix has Frisk getting to hang out with Grillby and his loyal customers. This is a pretty cool idea, and makes sense knowing what we do about Grillby and his laid-back personality. The track itself also really pushes this laid-back and chill vibe for the bar and grill, using Pastry Parlor, Roast in Peace, and Sans to set the mellow and relaxed setting. I especially like the use of Dating Start at the end, as it conveys Frisk being able to bond with Grillby closer, even though Dating Start is supposed to replace Enemy Approaching in Monster Mix. Other than that, I don't have much to say about this track. It doesn't feel all that important, and just seems like an excuse to have more Grillby, which I'll take, I guess. Maybe if there was more explanation of how the hangout with Grillby would go, or why he invited Frisk to dinner in the first place, I'd feel more strongly about this track, but I didn't get any of that, unfortunately. This might seem a little harsh to the old bar and Grillby, but I think I'll put this right above Roast in Peace and Good Tracks, as it's just about as memorable and enjoyable to listen to as that track. Okay, well, on to the core and the end of Hotland. What a beautifully peaceful track, and a nice core approach replacement too. That's right, A Beautiful Way Outside is the core approach replacement, and wow does it sound like more than it actually is, which I mean in the best way possible. If you're wondering why birds chirping is one of the biggest focus points of this track, and the overall pretty and serene nature of the track, look no further than Toadie's description. Flowey and Asriel's pride and joy. The walkway to the core was entirely redecorated to look like a beautiful field of grass and flowers, complete with a blue sky. While nobody seems to really know what the surface looks like, Flowey feels like he has a connection to the outside world, being a flower and all, and managed to direct Asriel into helping it make a fairly accurate portrayal of a field out on the surface. While Asriel and Flowey making Hotland a more plant-based environment isn't exactly a new concept to Monster Mix, this definitely seems like the most wholesome iteration of the idea. Just with how peaceful and quaint the track sounds, I can only imagine that the walkway to the core is stunningly like that of the outside world. Along with this, having Asriel and Flowey's vision on the redecorating is a tragic piece of foreshadowing for the next track to come. In the end, though, this track is simply just a prettier version of Small Shock with some bird noises on top, which isn't anything too special. Really though, it didn't need to be, as Core Approach wasn't anything special either, but it still made its impact how it needed to. That being said, I can't put A Beautiful Way Outside very high in the tier list, as it's really just Small Shock, but it is fully deserving of a place in Good Tracks, just above Rage Against the Mystery Machine regardless. On to the core! Well everyone, welcome to Monster Mix's Core. This is the last main section of the game, excluding the labs of course, so it would make this one of the last area themes. Does it do well? I think it does. This core replacement not only has a great title, a probably unintentional reference to one of Stampy Cat's Lovely World minigames, Flower Power, but also a reference to how Asriel and Flowey have greatly changed most of Hotland, core included, into a more plant-based place. Toadie states that the core especially is a weird amalgamation of what it used to be. Mechanical, but with an overabundance of plant life. She also states that you'll be able to tell the difference between Asriel and Flowey's distinctive additions to certain areas, which brings me back to the idea of the core being a place where things seem to get out of control. Maybe in Monster Mix, this is where Asriel and Flowey's ideas for additions got out of control, and they went their separate ways about it. Anyways, the most important thing to know is that Flowey has managed to power parts of the core, name reference, and even control them, including their lasers. With those interesting concepts out of the way, the song. It starts off pretty strong with a less bouncy and stricter version of core, which I like for variation. Then we have an introduction of moving vocals, and an original sounding melody begins to play on some bell-like instrument. I really like this original sounding melody, as it adds this mysterious and playful nature to the core. Soon enough, the good old electric guitar starts playing the second Flowey phase of Your Best Nightmare, which is just such a great way to introduce Flowey's future scene battle theme. Mettaton borrowed a lot from Core in his battle theme, Death by Glamour, so having Your Best Nightmare as one of the main themes in the Core replacement is great. Along with this, the track has leitmotifs from Core, of course, and even his theme. This is some great leitmotif characterization at work here. Great job in playing Asriel's role in the Core. Then, of course, we got the You Idiot 3-note danger theme hitting impactfully right after the Your Best Nightmare section is finished. After this, unfortunately, the song kinda just repeats itself and ends out with the Core backing once again. Flower Power does a great job at conveying an effective Flowey run Core with great leitmotif placements, and in general, is a banger song. The only thing that I don't care for too much about the song is the fact that it practically just repeats at the halfway point. I would have loved to see some different sections of Your Best Nightmare or even a full his theme section, but without any of this difference, it makes the song seem repetitive. It's still a great song nonetheless and will surely get its spot in awesome tracks, but the question is, where? Well, you didn't come for me to ask questions, did ya? Yeah, I'm just gonna put Flower Powered at a really decent but tragically missed opportunity of Under No Longer Ruined. Maybe if there was more focus on his theme and Flower Powered like No Longer Ruined focused on Alphys' theme, it would have gotten higher, but as of now, that's where it's gonna sit. Still great. Well, it's about time that Frisk fought Flowey. As Toadie describes in the description of this track, Flowey's convinced Frisk is up to no good, and that Asriel could very much be in danger if they don't put a stop to things. But even if that is the case, what could they possibly do? Gotta love the in-character actions being taken by Flowey, drawing an opposite to how Mettaton fought Frisk in Undertale. Mettaton fought Frisk for mere entertainment and to reveal the truth of Alphys' lies, while Flowey is fighting Frisk because he sees them as a threat to Asriel's safety. This is all really cool for Monster Mix, and it works as the last episode replacement well. Oh yeah, about that. The track itself is kinda not too great of a last episode replacement actually. It doesn't even use motifs from His Best Friend or anything, and only uses You Idiot. Now, granted, it does work quite well as a very menacing track, but the potential is kinda lost. I do like the ideas behind it and how good it sounds, but it's just a menacing You Idiot. I hate to do this, but since the next track does all this track does but better, I'll put this one a lot lower than I normally would, at the top of decent tracks. Speaking of which... Okay, so remember the last track? Well, imagine that, but with a such more menacing sound font presence, and you basically got photomorphosis. Well, to be fair, there is a little bit of extra description for this one, being right after an exact copy of the last track's reading, after the "what could they possibly even do" line. You'll just have to wait and see. So, as implied by the name and heck of a sound font used for this track, it seems like Flowey, in a similar fashion to Mettaton, has transformed into a greater form. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the Oh My replacement. Yeah. Heck, the definition of this track, photomorphosis, is the taking on of a form so far as this is governed by the stimulus of light. The name of the track also seems to be a neat reference to one of Undertale Flowey's greater forms, that being Photoshop Flowey. If you even look close enough to the dimmed Flowey sprite used for the video, you can see our plant pal donning a taller body with vines surrounding him. This all makes for an extremely effective tension builder, and makes me wonder what Flowey's final Monster Mix battle will have. Unfortunately, as stated in the beginning of Photomorphosis' ranking, this track is extremely similar to that of the track that came before it. However, I believe it does all that previous track was doing, but better. Sadly, this does also mean many of the downstrides of this track are also shared from Don't Be an Idiot. The main criticism still being, it's only You Idiot used with no variation. The track is still very effective after everything, though, and is great at building up tension for the next track. I just feel like 2 you idiot focus tracks back to back is a bit much, that's all. I'll be putting Photomorphosis above Alphys to the Rescue and good tracks, as I enjoy listening to this track more than Alphys to the Rescue, but Napstablook's Training Start and Spook Tune remixes are too good to be passed by a simple 3-note danger theme. This is it, the fight against Monster Mix's Omega Flowey, a prophecy come to life. As Toadie just states in the description of this Death by Glamour replacement, prophecies, this flowery bud is done with you. Fueled by anger, determination, magical soil, and artificial sunlight lamps, they've overgrown into a very formidable foe. It's been said many times that there once was a prophecy of a flower bringing salvation to the underground, and that tale seems to be fully sought after at this point by Flowey, as this track's name is Prophecies after all. This is great already, as I feel like Flowey's Omega form is just enough to distinctualize himself from his original form, and that helps the previous track's name, Photomorphosis, make all the more sense, as Omega Flowey is duly known as Photoshop Flowey. The title calling back to the prophecies about a flower helping the monsters escape the underground is great, and adds this extra weight that Flowey brings to the conflict. Then again, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like it's either a bit misspelled, or it's supposed to have the second half be seized, which just makes the track sound cooler, so I'll go with thinking that. Or maybe I just don't know how to read. That's a possibility. The song itself is just amazing. Its main structure is around, you guessed it, you idiot or your best nightmare, but also uses plenty of other leitmotifs to make the song feel connected to Hotland, as well as make this final stand even more gripping. Flower Powered's second bow wow wow bow wow 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 section ties it to Monster Mix's core, and the Your Best Friend leitmotif reminds us that it's the same Flowey who's been suspicious and skeptical of us this whole time. The finale build-up part coming right after the Your Best Friend leitmotif is all just so climactic. It's so good. Okay, well, I suppose it's time to address the massive elephant in the room. The final section of Prophecies that brings up an insanely impactful leitmotif that any Undertale OST enjoyer would label as Bergentrucken, a theme directly connected to Asgore, King of the Monsters. The implications for this being in Flowey's boss theme are just huge. You know how Asriel and Flowey are both existing in Monster Mix's universe, despite Undertale Flowey and Asriel practically being different versions of the same character? Well then, in that case, who is Monster Mix's Flowey? The previously secret motif of Bergentrucken tells us quite plainly that Flowey is truly King Asgore. It all makes sense now. The skepticism, the suspicious, not wanting to see Frisk in the Memorial Hall, wanting to protect Asriel, everything. Heck, the very form that Flowey takes in this fight gives him little vine horns reminiscent of Asgore's. I think I'll talk more about this crazy realization for Monster Mix's Metaton roll shift in the next track's description. Just know for now, wow, this is so good. All that being said, the track is absolutely amazing. The music, implications, and lore relevance, it would be criminal to put it anywhere lower than amazing tracks. So, with all that being said, I believe Prophecies is well suited taking the place of top of amazing tracks. It may not be an absolute bop like Fighting Star or Tense. The Bergentrucken leitmotif at the end can feel like it's taking way too long to exalt, but Prophecies still manages to be a compelling track, music-wise and story-wise. So it only makes sense to let it sit there. Seriously, great stuff. But we're not quite done with this flower yet.
Curious, I've never seen a plant cry before.
Nope, Asgore, that was just me. Man, oh man, is finale just so good. I can barely even put into words how I feel about this track. Flowey, after all this time, surely wasn't trying to be Frisk's best friend, but if forgiven, they agreed to start off small. Tales were told that Flowey brings salvation to the underground, but it seems like that's just gonna have to be put on hold for now. This next part of the description of finale, Toadie just explains it perfectly, so I'll read it word for word. As if I haven't been using word for word Toadie quotes before. Flowey reveals here to Frisk, and potentially Kara, and Asriel, that he is in fact the late king of the underground, Asgore. This is something he kept from Asriel out of shame and fear, being brought back to life by the royal scientist only to find himself stuck in a flowery vessel, no sign of his wife. He couldn't bear to tell Asriel. So he simply acted as a friend, as the next closest thing Asriel would have, again, to a sibling. My heart! Can I just say, Asgore's characterization in this multi-layered role shift reveal is so sound to his character, somehow making his story just as, if not more, tragic as Undertale's Flowey. Having Asgore be the Flowey of Monster Mix is so intriguing, and also recontextualizes all previous interactions with him in Monster Mix's Hotland as an effective reveal should. I don't know how Asgore fell down in the first place, but I can only imagine the same fear and shame he might have had upon waking up as a flower of all things. His wife and kingdom ripped away from him so easily. Asgore acting as Asriel's friend is so tear-jerkingly tragic, as Asriel has really had a rough time with friends, as seen in Undertale. All of this is just so emotionally driven and filling story-wise, and I haven't even gotten to the actual track yet. The track itself is simply just a slowed version of Bergenchucken played on piano, creating a truly heart-stopping yet somber atmosphere. This works incredibly well, especially given the fact that, of course, this is the For the Fans replacement. Yep, remember when I was praising Hall of Shame so much and alluding to the fact that its reprisal in the For the Fans replacement would do the song justice? Well, the time for that justice is now. It uses Asgore's main theme in such a somber and melancholic tone that I can't help but feel the same disappointment, regret, and embarrassment Flowey must be feeling. But the track keeps building, and building, and building, adding backings and different instruments until it explodes halfway through a royal triumph of bombastic percussion and grand instrumentation. If I can compare this track to any in the Undertale OST, it wouldn't actually be For the Fans, as this change halfway through greatly makes me think of his theme, which is huge if you know how good his theme is. The regal sounding percussion just sells this pushing forward, but the woodwind playing determination reminds not to forget. Then, after all of that is said and done, it goes back to only piano playing Bergenchucken again. Wow. Just wow. Such an impactful and meaningful song, rich not only in storytelling, lore, and content, but also in emotion and character. I know it might seem crazy to do this to another finale track in an Undertale music-centered tier list, but I think Finale is more than deserving of its place at the top of bestest of the best tier. Don't worry, as this is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of amazingly rich music. And, spoilers, Finale won't be at the top when all is said, when the end of this tier list rolls around. But in any case, still, what an amazing track. Sincerely, fantastic job, Toadie. Wow. You thought that last track was good? Well, get ready for peak! Okay, all jokes aside, the long elevator replacement is long elevator. The song itself is just not a song, and only an elevator sound effect like how Undertale's long elevator was. Thankfully, this isn't all we have for this track, as it has some pretty intriguing details mentioned in the description. As Toadie states, this track plays alongside other songs during the elevator ride with Frisk, the song matchup being different depending on which route one was to take. For the neutral route, this would play with Determination. You know, that song all the way back at the beginning of the tier list, while Frisk reflects on their choices. For the pacifist route, it plays Determination Reprise, the song after this one, so I'll save that description for that. And finally, for the No Mercy route, this would just play all by itself. This is a really interesting idea, and I really like the thought put into how this track would play alongside other tracks. But there is something that this description actually somewhat brings down about the track. You see, in Undertale, Long Elevator was effectively used as a "wow, what next?" sound effect to let the player in their thoughts stir up before the track Undertale would play. This makes all the more sense, because right before this, the player likely learns that Alpheus was lying to them the whole time, and Frisk would need to take Asgore's soul to cross the barrier. So, basically, Undertale's Long Elevator was used as a tension builder, and a time to sit and think. But having this play alongside other songs would take that away. Now, it should be noted that Monster Mix isn't Undertale. It's very different from it in multiple ways, so it would be unfair to solely bring this track down because it doesn't do the exact same thing as Undertale's Long Elevator does. Regardless, at least this effect is still maintained in Monster Mix's No Mercy route, which is pretty decent. Anyways, with all that being said, this track ain't making it out of not my favorite tier, sheerly just because it's not even a song. Sure, I like the ideas along with it, but it's just WOOOOOM, and that's it. I'll put it above Nightmarish Ambience though, because I feel like it has barely enough cool ideas to beat it out, but it's still going below When the World Split in Two. Okay, now let's get into... wait a minute. Determination Reprise, as stated in the Long Elevator section, would play alongside Long Elevator during the pacifist route. But now we get a bit more context around the track. As this would play during the pacifist route, Kara would be taking the elevator with Frisk up to a new home, and the humans would reflect on their journey. As Kara is the main pushing force behind taking this harmless route, they now fully realize how far Frisk has come. Kara admits that they might have been skeptical at times, but in the end, Frisk made the right choices that led them here. Toadie also describes that because of Kara's gratitude and trust in Frisk, they give Frisk their flower crown and worn dagger, warning only to use it if they absolutely need to. This is all really cool, and I quite enjoy all this Kara characterization, as it just naturally progresses how our companion would act if we chose the pacifist route. The song itself kinda acts as a reprised version of Kara's greetings, and a little bit of determination, but that's a little less clear, especially because it's not even labeled as a motif in the description. Anyway, the song consists mainly of Greetings' Undertale motif, and quickly works to introduce an upbeat Soul Purpose motif as well. Once Upon a Time also makes its appearance in this song where... hey, this track kinda reminds me of the soul-centered tracks a bit. But maybe that's just because of the Once Upon a Time plus Soul Purpose combo. I don't know. The song does work well to differentiate itself from those others by, in the latter half of the song, using Reunited and this high-pitched wind-sounding instrument to convey a sense of accomplishment. I'm a little confused why Reunited is used here, but I guess I'll take it. We've made it. We're almost to the end of our journey, and we should be happy too. The right decisions were made, and all's well, right? Determination Reprise overall is a pretty nice song. It progresses Kara's greetings and Kara's character for the pacifist route, and sounds pretty great altogether. I'll put Determination Reprise and Awesome Tracks right above Pastry Parlor, mainly because it just sounds better in general, but not above Flower Powered, as I like the lore and music of that track more. For being Monster Mix pacifist runs at Long Elevator, really nice work. Well, you know what time it is now. The Monster Mix Undertale replacement itself, Homestretch, is quite the song. Don't you worry, for the song I'm not gonna get all boo-hoo, cry, cry, cry on you, as this song feels a lot different from Undertale's Undertale. Homestretch mainly uses home as its primary motif, which is an interesting choice that I understand, as the track is no longer about the story of Asriel and the first fallen human. So having memory be a main motif wouldn't work. Speaking of which, I just want to get this main criticism out of the way, that being how Homestretch fails at telling a story like Undertale did. Undertale perfectly uses the same motifs but with different instruments, keys, and volume to emphasize a greater story residing within the song, but Homestretch does not capture this same storytelling. Now yes, Toadie does describe that Monster Mix's Homestretch wouldn't be paired alongside an unskippable lore dump like in Undertale, but it almost misses the point of Undertale's Undertale by doing this. Undertale was used so effectively by evoking strong feelings through its instrumentation, key changes, you name it, all while being relatively simple in structure, while Homestretch uses more leitmotifs in time, but doesn't feel like a story is being told. Maybe this is just my Undertale game bias here, but even in the second half of the song when the key change happens, it just doesn't feel earned. It doesn't exactly help that this track was also paired along with no description of what story would be told through the environmental clues and tidbits, so it just feels like the bones of a moving story that was never able to be told because of some unfortunate stylistic choices, at least from my silly perspective. Anyways, back to the track at hand. It starts with a nice non-swing home melody that, as stated before, acts as the main melody throughout. Then, soon enough, the Once Upon a Time motif kicks in with some percussion, making this seem like a sort of montage sequence travel. After a bit, one of the last major motifs reveals itself, that being Bone Trousel. Little known fact, at least by me for a while, Undertale actually has a motif to its upcoming king theme, Bergentrucken. So having Bone Trousel here at least makes sense. What I don't quite like is how this takes up so much space in the track. I mean, Undertale's Undertale barely even hinted at Bergentrucken, but Homestretch puts Bone Trousel full throttle. I guess it's not a bad thing, just different, and I don't quite like the repetitiveness of it later on. The Bone Trousel section does offer a climax in the Snowy motif, which is spectacular to listen to. The Snowy section in Bergentrucken afterwards was probably the closest we got to Undertale in climax and emotion. Speaking of which, the Snowy section peaks and is brought back down with a slow and quiet Bergentrucken, which really works story-wise, as we just learned earlier on that Asgore was the king of the underground, but isn't anymore for reasons. The story goes on from here with more home, reintroduction of the Once Upon a Time motif, and Bone Trousel, slowly fizzling out by the end. I like this track a good amount, and it's pretty catchy, but I will admit that the second half of the song offering basically nothing new was a bit disappointing. Okay, I know it seems like I've been unfairly harsh to this track, but just know that it's purely out of a love for Undertale and Monster Mix alike. I adore Monster Mix, and more than want it to achieve the highs of Undertale. And heck, in some cases, it skyrockets above what the Undertale OST has to offer. The reason why I'm being so critical is because I want the absolute best out of Monster Mix, and I want to share as much as I can about my thoughts on the tracks, for the betterment of myself, the community, and maybe even Toadie? Maybe that's a bit too far of a stretch, I don't know. I'm not even close to similar capabilities as Toadie. In any case, Homestretch by no means is a bad track. It's just a bit long, repetitive, and doesn't quite tell a story like Undertale. And most importantly, doesn't do anything amazingly different from Undertale's Undertale either. I'll put Homestretch above Ehhh in awesome tracks, which hurts me more than you can understand. I'd love to put this track higher, but it's so long and doesn't seem to have much story substance behind it, because of the lack of the story in the description. I can only put it this high. It's still a great song, just it could do better. Hey, maybe this is a good thing though, because if you know me and my Undertale neutral ending appreciation, that amazing tracks and bestest of the bestest may be getting a couple of new friends. The final corridor. Not No Mercy, don't worry. Here we have Grillby's self-expression, the choice replacement for Monster Mix, notably also being quite different from the choice in tone, like the Premonition and It's Raining Somewhere Else replacements. This track would play in the final corridor with Grillby finally being able to express himself fully to Frisk. As noted earlier in other Grillby tracks, he isn't often seen without other NPCs or characters, so he usually finds himself being interpreted by those characters. But here, it's just Frisk and Grillby, so he can finally reveal his true thoughts and feelings with no filter like before. Unfortunately, Toadie doesn't describe what Grillby would discuss with Frisk along the lines of mortality of killing in RPG games or just anything in general, so we can only wonder. The song itself feels so personal. Its main leitmotif is Lazy Flames, and aside from that it's original, which makes sense as Grillby is able to reveal a different side of himself to Frisk by his self-expression. I guess this means, especially since it's not just a really slowed version of Homestretch, it's better song-wise than the choice, which is admirable. The Grillby sound font, as it's been seen so far in Monster Mix, is used with a mellow and sympathetic melody, and when the bells come in, the track just feels so much more close. I really like self-expression, more than I realized before, as it really works as Grillby's The Choice, where he's able to show his true thoughts to Frisk and the player, the song perfectly conveying that. Now, the only thing that holds this track back for me, unfortunately, is just a personal song enjoying thing. I don't really like listening to overly mellow songs. I like more deep songs that make me really, really think, like ambient music or something. And mellow music kinda just feels like a lesser version of that to me. Once again, just a personal thing, so hopefully it won't get too much in the way of this track's success. In the end, for being a really solid track with naturally progressed character ideas behind it, I'll put self-expression above Deep Cleanse and awesome tracks. Nice! Slow Burn is a pretty great Grillby bop. Being the song that might play when you fight Sans replacement, its placement in Monster Mix's story is still up in the air, but just hearing this Hothead's battle theme is still pretty important for his character. As I said, dang, this track is such a bop. It works as a boss theme while also feeling like a Grillby song, which would probably prove to be a relatively difficult task, as that's meshing mellow with battle. The song, of course, had to have Lazy Flames, which is nice and all, but the other motifs work so well with it. Dating Start is probably in reference to how Monster Mix's battle theme is made of Dating Start, so having a usually non-fighting character would need some fight injected into the conflict. Spider Dance also makes sense, as Grillby is very connected to Muffet, as they own the pastry parlor Bar and Grill together in Snowden. Those two sections really worked well, but man, when I say the pastry parlor leitmotif hit, I mean it hit. Wow. What a great callback to his Muffet connection, and possibly hinting at a deeper care for Muffet than what's seen on the surface. Then, the track ends off with an effective Sans motif, which has been a part of Grillby's motific set for a while now. Finally, the song ends off on the Lazy Flames leitmotif as it started. What else is there to say about this amazing track that I haven't already stated? It uses leitmotifs greatly to contribute to Grillby's existing character in a theoretical fighting setting, connects Grillby to his desires and what he values, and it's an absolute banger. I'll put Slow Burn just barely below Fighting Start Intense, as it's good, but sadly can't outbeat the pre-existing, perfectly cooked songs that are the battle themes. In any case, great job, Grillby. Guys, is that? It is! Well, if all the clues before this didn't convince you, here we are with King Papyrus. I know I overly yapped about how I feel about King Papyrus and Royal Inspection, so I'll try to keep my love for how Papyrus is king in a nice, concise list. 1. I love Papyrus. He's one of my favorite characters from Undertale. 2. The role of King of the Underground is a heavy burden. Having Monsterkind's entrapment underground resting on your shoulders will really put you where you'll probably show a more intricate, deep, and flawed side of you, as seen with Asgore. And lastly, 3, this means that one of the best boss themes from Undertale, Asgore, will get a Toadie created Papyrus variation, which is really exciting. Anyways, the important part is, Papyrus is really cool, and making him the king will do a great job at exploring Papyrus's character and what he would do in these unique circumstances. As Toadie states in the description of this track, the king and queen are long gone, and Asriel is still waiting to be of age for kingship, so Papyrus offered his helping hand as king. Frisk walks into the throne room, and Papyrus has his small shock, or really not. Even though this is the small shock replacement, he seems ecstatic to meet Frisk, like he doesn't realize the tragic events that will soon unfold. The song itself is basically just nyeh, which, hey, no way, that's the track title! As well as this is evident, it seems almost like Papyrus is more mature in this nyeh, maybe because of his royalty, his responsibility, or whatnot. It definitely makes him seem more refined than the Papyrus we know from Undertale, while still keeping his goofy and playful personality that I love. This track also uses bone trousel, so that's pretty neat too, as it shows how Papyrus is willing to hold himself back maturity-wise, but still be a strong skeletal king. Overall, quite nice. It fully introduces Papyrus as the king, and shows that he's basically the same Papyrus that we know and love, just as a king. Like he wasn't one before. It's nothing too special, as it's basically just nyeh, so I'll put it right above Sans, as I enjoy it more than his character theme, but Papyrus's nyeh can get a little annoying with that dun 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 bounciness. Here we go again, the final sound effect replacement, and wait, it's not just a sound effect? Nice! Royal Inspection is Monster Mix's barrier replacement, and works a lot better than I would have thought. Toadie adds some details for this track too. I'll just read it from here. Once you and Papyrus find yourself in front of the barrier, Papyrus finally lets up the facade. The fate of the underground rests on his shoulders. The fate of humanity does too. Your fate does too. This is what I was talking about. Papyrus having to make the hard call to save Monsterkind, a heartbreaking concept, is done very well here. Oh, and that's not all. While Papyrus was initially ecstatic about holding such a prestigious position, he's realized that the pressure of being a king is clashing with his own personal morals. But at this point, it's far too late to turn back on his kind and spare you. Not when they're this close to freedom. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Papyrus has been put in such a difficult situation as Asgore was, and he made the hard decision to help Monsterkind in fighting and taking Frisk's soul. If you can't tell, I really like this characterization, and it's very satisfying to see from a pretty surface level character like Papyrus. The track itself is, well, not very much of a song. It uses bone trousel and barrier as leitmotifs, and sounds like a song, but there's not much to say about it from that. It is a thought-provoking, simple track that builds the tension for the upcoming fight with King Papyrus, and works by doing that. I'll put Royal Inspection and Good Tracks right above Photomorphosis, as it's more interesting music-wise, but is not anything against Training Start. Okay, now on to Papyrus's Asgore. Let's do this. The introductory Bergentrucken replacement for the Greatest of Good is an effective introduction to Papyrus's main Asgore replacing motif. It works well at having a regal tone and tragic one at that. But Toadie didn't separate these songs, so I'll be ranking them together. Wait, just kidding. I just got a new tier list, and they're separated! Thank you, Austhetic! So we gotta rank them differently. As for the Greatest of Good, it's a pretty decent introduction to King Papyrus's theme, and has a lot more tension than you'd expect, but that will thankfully be expanded on in the next track. That's pretty much to the track though. An introduction to the next track, and it's pretty effective, but it's just that. So nothing really to make note of. I'll put it at the top of decent tracks, as it will nicely finish a sort of jingle tier in itself. Reduce, reuse, recycle at the bottom, and for greatest of good at the top. Nice! Okay, now it's time to talk about Trousel of Triumph and Turmoil, Monster Mix's Asgore replacement. One word: tense. This song reeks and oozes of deep, painful, and very uneasy tension, which works so tragically for a Papyrus Asgore replacement track. Toadie describes that despite what Papyrus wishes he could do, it won't change what he needs to do. Papyrus is going to fight Frisk, and give it his all to free Monsterkind once and all. The song mainly uses or Bone Trousel, which works for Papyrus and makes sense, as that's obviously his battle theme. As stated before, the strings, sprite, percussion, notes, everything, it all makes this track feel as anxious and tragically unfair for Papyrus to have to go through, as it should. I can't name just one thing that makes this track feel as tense as it does, but just the fact that I'm pointing this out surely goes to show how effective it is. As the Asgore Heartache replacement for the song, Papyrus of course has the Sandflame motif play, as he's definitely who's most important to Papyrus, so having his theme play is really sweet. Even though it's not technically, tutorial thing, but I can overlook that. It shows a true care for Sans that isn't seen in things like Undertale's Bone Trousel, which of course is a completely different context, but still. I really like how it first acts as a Sans leitmotif, but then transitions into a It's Raining Somewhere Else reference in the next iteration. After this, the song climaxes in a soft and subtle dating start motif on piano. Again, I don't know why, but this part just seems so melancholic and tragic, like remembering something that was lost from Papyrus. The motif itself could be in reference to Monster Mix's fighting theme, but I feel like something else is at play here. Maybe it's because Papyrus and Undertale was so intricately connected to the dating minigame for Pacifist. Maybe it's because he appeared in Snowden in that game. I don't know. What I do know is that if this motif was actually in reference to community or becoming close with others, it would make so much sense to be King Papyrus's boss theme. He already desperately tries to help and be a part of his community, I think, in Undertale, but on top of that, the King Papyrus neutral route also has Papyrus helping and being a part of his community, making everyone keep working and even making spaghetti for them, even if it's not that good. Either way, the dating start motif is quite nice. The song goes back into Papyrus's Bone Trousel after this, but soon makes its way to its last connected leitmotifs. First, the Alfie's leitmotif, which is interesting because I think it implies that Papyrus at least knows Alfie's enough to be fighting for her in this conflict. Either that, or it's just in reference to the first boss theme there was, but that wouldn't really work because Melting Under Pressure was the first main boss theme, and it didn't prominently use Alfie's leitmotifs. Whatever. So yeah, I think this probably means that they at least know each other, which is cool. What may be more important than this is that I believe that this song is the first song in Monster Mix's OST to use the Battle Against the True Hero motif, which, spoilers, acts as Undyne's Once Upon a Time motif for her final battle in the Pacifist run. This makes perfect sense, as Undyne and Papyrus have been seen to be close friends, so he would totally be fighting for her as well. The Sphere of Justice motif kinda confused me, but I'll either shrug it off to being an Undyne motif, or the cooler implication of it being used way later in one of my favorite Monster Mix No Mercy songs. Finally, Trousel of Triumph and Turmoil ends it off grandly, doing the Bone Trousel, but going up a whole key, I think, raising the grandiosity and somehow also the tension. All this being said, Trousel of Triumph and Turmoil is a great song as it perfectly conveys what would play if Frisk were to fight Papyrus and if he were the king over the underground. The tension and tragedy is on point for our goofy skeleton friend, to be put in this sad circumstance, and the motifs explain who Papyrus is fighting for. This song is just great. The only thing about it that pulls it back for me is the fact that, well, its tension building is too effective. It feels uncomfortable to listen to the song, unlike Asgore, which is obviously going to affect how much I like to listen to it. It's still a great song, no doubt about that. It's just almost too effective in making me not want to know what happens next. All that being said, Trousseau of Triumph and Turmoil will sit under Prophecies in Amazing Tracks. So close, yet so far from Flowey's full Asgore reveal in Grand Final Battle. Nice job. And after all that tension, for the Riggidy replacement... Wait, what? So do you all remember Man's Best Friend from the beginning of the tier list? Well, our Flowey replacement is back to deliver us the Omega or Photoshop Flowey replacement of Monster Mix's neutral ending. The annoying dog comes back into the spotlight and brings a tense and dramatic fight between Papyrus and Frisk to a screeching halt by stepping up and... Wait a minute. Is that little pup absorbing the human souls? Oh dear. I'll be honest, this whole concept and situation is just plain silly, but that's not a bad thing at all. Papyrus has had a history of being foiled by the annoying dog, as seen in Undertale, and might have also had similar occurrences in Monster Mix. I won't look too far into the again part of foiled again, but it doesn't make it any less ironically funny. This whole situation makes sense though, as the annoying dog Flowey role shift, so it wouldn't have the dog coming in at the end of the battle and maliciously killing Papyrus while his guard is down, as it wouldn't make sense for the dog. Instead, I feel that this is a perfect way to segue into Monster Mix's Photoshop Flowey replacement, and it works well. The track itself isn't anything too special, only being a sillier version of Dog Song, but I feel like it definitely works in context to the hijinks that is going down. One thing I will point out though is the fact that Foiled Again does start the ongoing lack of the doggo's main motif introduced in Man's Best Friend, which is a bit disappointing. Still, this track works as intended and provides a silly but kind of terrifying realization of what is to come. I'll put Foiled Again right below Soul Purpose and Good Tracks, as it provides an introduction to the dog song motif, which will be used later on in this route's tracks, but isn't quite as important as that of Soul Purpose. The annoying dog has just absorbed the 6 human souls. That really can't be good. As Monster Mix's You Idiot replacement, we have a quite menacing Wolfenstein dog song track that presents a shadowed and mysterious large dog. Now, Wolfenstein being a main song used in here, and the sprite being ever so similar to Androgyny, or the dog amalgamate, would imply that the annoying dog's Photoshop Flowey form is none other than Androgyny, which is pretty neat. The song itself isn't anything too special, as it just introduces us to the Wolfenstein motif, which is just basically dogs barking in a specific pattern over and over, and some more of Dog Song, which will be nice to see in the Your Best Nightmare replacement. Overall, I don't have too much to say about this track. It's decent, sets up the Your Best Nightmare pretty well, but isn't too interesting in itself. The song works and is good, but I feel like it wouldn't work by not listening to it right along with the next track. So I think it'll go right above Rage Against the Mystery Machine, but below A Beautiful Way Outside, as it's pretty decent, but just not that fun to listen to. Sorry dog, don't worry, you'll get what you truly deserve in these next tracks. Toadie, you sure don't disappoint on boss themes, do you? Man's Best Fiend is the Your Best Nightmare replacement. Cool name thing you did there, by the way. And wow. This song honestly sounds more like a nightmare than Your Best Nightmare, which is really saying something. The whole song feels so out of control and chaotic, like Androgyny isn't even in control and everything is just in terrifying madness. As the description reads, meet Androgyny. Androgyny is scary. So are we. So are you. So are your friends. Please help. Like, wow. That dialogue alone conveys the helplessness this theme brings out so well. Endogyne is no Flowey, a well thought out flower who's lived before and has plans to become all powerful and whatnot. He's just a little puppy who absorbed the human souls, not knowing what would come of it. It's all so disturbing, and this song's soul sections more than present this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The start of the song is great, nothing along the lines of Your Best Nightmare, but I almost feel like the sudden clash of everything happening after no laugh and just some ominous Wolfenstein sounds is perfect. The song mainly uses Dog Song as its You Idiot melody replacement, which works so well. The sound font used in the main sections against Endogyne even sounds like that of a muffled dog bark, which is horribly great. Also, the main sections against Endogyne are just bops. The first one being most simplistic, the second one hitting like a truck with the enemy approaching motif, and the final one just being a sped up version of the first. Another thing to note is how instead of the sirens noting when the soul sections are coming up, Man's Best Fiend uses bow 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 sound, which is the little sound that plays when the annoying dog appears in Undertale. Just great, I love that. Anyways, onto the soul sections. As we've already met all of the fallen humans from their soul-centered songs, we've been introduced to their leitmotifs. But Man's Best Fiend flips Flowey's use of the soul sections on its head. These sections sound so mysteriously disturbing, with ethereal sounds playing over the human's faint theme in the background. Then, after that's done, the song goes back to its crazy dog breakcore session. One more thing to note, unlike Your Best Nightmare from Undertale's OST, Man's Best Fiend goes dog section, soul, unlike Flowey's section, soul, Flowey's section, soul. I don't really feel too strongly about this change, but I just thought I'd point it out. Anyways, Man's Best Fiend is a dang strong Your Best Nightmare replacement, its soul sections feeling like horrible, out of control fever dreams, and its main dog sections being bangers. The song brings forth a feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, and a loss of control on all sides, which is perfect for what situation this would be playing in. I think that Man's Best Fiend more than deserves its place in bestest of the bestest tier. The question is, where? I think above the Gap, but below Finale would work, as it's not quite as rich in storytelling and emotion as Finale, but is much more song-wise and idea-wise than the Gap. Great job. I cannot wait to see what the Finale replacement has in store for us. This isn't the type of Finale replacement I was hoping for, but I think it's actually better. As Toadie states in the description of this track, after bringing comfort and relief to the entrapped souls, there of course remains one last being to calm down. Endogyne wasn't aware of what absorbing the souls would do to it. Endogyne didn't know any better. All Endogyne wanted to do was cause some mischief. It's still unbelievably scared of what it's become. With the help of your friends, you find a way to soothe Endogyne. This, along with the humans' faces appearing in the little cat shadow areas and Endogyene's sprite, makes for a pretty happy ending for Frisk's friends. But they still need to help the poor doggo. The annoying dog, it really didn't know what it was doing, and probably doesn't know how to stop it either. It's so tragic for our innocent little Flowey replacement, but that's where Frisk and the souls come in. Instead of overpowering the pup in a hype-inducing epic climax to the battle, all they need to do is show some compassion to help the poor dog. The song beautifully uses the soul purpose as its main motif, which is just so nice. It not only sounds a lot better with a different sound font, but also makes all the sense as the souls are finding their purpose and helping calm the annoying dog down. This reprised version of Soul Purpose over some soft Wolfenstein makes for an oddly chill atmosphere, which somehow works. The song is overall nice and, well, comforting, until the halfway point comes along and brings the track up to great heights. It amazingly peaks with a greater key of Soul Purpose playing and the Dance of Dog motif from Man's Best Friend. This is what I've been waiting for this whole time with the annoying dog as flowery replacement. Some well-crafted internal continuity with the first song that introduces our boy, and here it is. And it's so great to hear. That, along with the sole purpose motif in the background, just makes for a hopeful and calming atmosphere. Not along the lines of Undertale's finale, but unique to the situation seen in Monster Mix. It's all just so beautiful. The better sole purpose melody, dance of dog motif, the callback to calming the dogs down in Undertale, it's just so good. Now, as for if it's my favorite song from Monster Mix, like Finale was for Undertale, no. Monster Mix, unsurprisingly, has way more to offer than this finale replacement. But that doesn't make Comfort a bad track. I adore Comfort, as it's a great ending to the chaos we've been through with Endogyny, and a grand conclusion to the story that's been told so far with the Souls. I think Comfort will sit just fine above Man's Best Fiend and Bestest of the Bestest here. Good dog. There. Everything's gonna be okay. For our grand conclusion of the big neutral box of Monster Mix, what better way to conclude than the way we started, with a no Undertale OST equivalent featuring the cute little puppy. Let Sleeping Dogs Lie is just a nice ending to the little annoying dog, now back to its original form and taking a needed rest. You take that rest, pup. The dialogue is a nice addition, not adding much and just giving the nice doggy a deserved pet. I kind of like to think, in a way, similar to the Flowey decision of mercy or spare at the end, it's to pet the dog or not. But that's just my headcanon. The song itself is mainly made of the dog check motif, a song not from the OST, but from weird code and error shenanigans, providing a calm, soothing atmosphere. Then there's also the dog song motif played on bells, not too loud or too soft, just enough to make for the perfect amount of melody in this sleepy song. The song kinda reminds me of Undertale's Good Night with its sounds and structure. This circumstance could even be a reference to Undertale's The End Screen, where the annoying dog will walk on screen and go to sleep with, I'm pretty sure, home music box or memory playing. I don't quite remember. Anyways, this song is just great for the end of the interactions with the annoying dog, because unfortunately, we will not be seeing the dog take in all underground monster souls along with the human souls again and turn into mega hyper-realistic Foam Toby Foxgaster as the pacifist final boss. Sorry to disappoint anyone who was looking forward to that. Overall, this is a great track to end off Monster Mix's Photoshop Flowey replacement boss, and is a great conclusion to this little doggo's adventures. You can continue your little nap in the bottom of amazing tracks, doggy. Sleep tight. Ring, ring. Greetings. It's me, Kara. With all that finished, we also finished Monster Mix's neutral route, now being met with not one, not two, but 3 ending replacements. When They Call Your Name seems to be the most ending replacement-y out of the 3, and is also the first we'll discuss. First, before discussing the track, let's go over the notes Toadie has for this track. As implied by the sprite used for 2 of these 3 tracks, and confirmed by Toadie, Kara is actually the one handling the neutral route phone calls, as they can't be killed in Monster Mix, except if one were to do a No Mercy run through Waterfall, which is interesting to note for later, especially seeing as Kara is the Monster Kid replacement. As for this neutral ending, this is definitely not the almost pacifist neutral ending where you don't date Undyne, or in this case Sans, as Kara still has their flower crown on, something given to Frisk in the pacifist run, as seen in Determination Reprise. No, this would likely be the general and ending replacement, and it works as that. I really like the beginning of the track with just the somber piano playing out, but sadly for me, this track soon suffers the It's Raining Somewhere Else effect, where I really like how a song sounds atmospherically at the beginning, but when the main melody comes in with its sound font, it kinda ruins the feel for me. When They Call Your Name also uses Once Upon a Time ruins, and sole purpose as motifs, which is cool, as the main melody is not that of slowed ruins, and instead something unique that makes sense for Kara. The Once Upon a Time motif is alright, and the ruins motif just feels unfinished, but in a kind of good way. I know this song is supposed to feel like longing for something greater, but some of this just feels incomplete, which I suppose may have been the intended purpose, who knows. Multiple times in the song, the notes of specific melodies are cut short, which I like from a narrative perspective, as it represents the player's possible full journey being cut off by their actions. In execution though, it doesn't sound too great musically. In the end, When They Call Your Name is a pretty solid and ending replacement, but it feels like it's missing something, for better or for worse. Top of good tracks you go, When They Call Your Name. Do you ever wonder if we could have done more? Hopes and Dreams is the second and ending replacement for Monster Mix, this one acting as the neutral ending music that would play after an almost pacifist neutral route of the game, as implied by the absence of Kara's flower crown, one that they give Frisk in the pacifist run of the game. This is also reflected by the track Hopes and Dreams itself. There's something about naming the pacifist neutral and ending replacement the same as the most climactic song in Undertale that just feels right. I think a good amount of this has to do with how hopeful the track is. It's mainly consisted of a faster respite, Once Upon a Time, and Hopes and Dreams' hopeful dramatic tension, which makes for that longing for something greater feel, but less unfinished and more hopeful. As Kara stated in the dialogue of the track, it's mainly just reflecting the good that was done and wondering, could we have done more? There's something so simple but deep about just wanting to help more, be a better person more, and aspire to spread more goodness. I feel like the simplistic but greater structure is also shared in this song's framework as well, it mainly being respite over and over with a soft Once Upon a Time. The song also only seems to be using the piano and strings, which works oh so well. The song is simple, but works so well as a pacifist neutral and ending replacement. If it were just to be the general and ending replacement, I'd probably put it lower because I'd feel like it doesn't suit the usually somber tone of most neutral endings, but since it's mainly geared towards the pacifist route, it works great for what it was meant for. I'll put Hopes and Dreams just above Flower Powered and Awesome Tracks because I find it more interesting than that, but just below No Longer Ruined because I still like the idea of the Toriel replacement leitmotif in the Ruins replacement track. Overall, nice job. On to the final neutral ending track. Continuing the trend of Monster Mix and ending tracks having exactly similar names to Undertale's pacifist route songs, we have Burn in Despair. This track, as implied by the name, the Asriel with a crown sprite, and Toadie's noting in this description, would play on neutral routes where Kara can't take the phone call for the ending. More specifically, this would probably play during Monster Mix's replacement of the Queen Elfie's ending, as Asriel is Monster Mix's Elfie's replacement. This song well conveys the disdain and hatred Asriel likely feels towards Frisk. Not only would they have gone on half of a no mercy run through the underground, but they had the audacity to abort it only after they killed Asriel's best friend. That is, if they are best friends like in Undertale. Burn in Despair only uses the You Idiot motif, which means more than one would think, as to my knowledge, Asriel never used the You Idiot motif in any of his songs other than Burn in Despair, only Flowey did. The percussion that comes in reminds me of Burn in Despair too, making for a harsh, cold, and almost but nobody came or in my way type environment. Asriel is not happy with you, and it shows in every way it can. Unfortunately, this song isn't very complex at all, and is just that one You Idiot motif over and over with changes in percussion and some bells here and there, but I don't think it needed to be complex. At this point, Asriel probably just wants to let Frisk know that the underground is suffering because of them, and they will never forget the crimes they've committed. And after that, doesn't want to give Frisk any more thought or attention. They don't deserve any of it after what they did to Kara. The track is simple, gets its ideas across well, and works well for the simple scenario it was designed for. Though, just because the song didn't need to be complex, doesn't mean that it won't get higher than other complicated songs because its ideas were easily suited in a simple song. Basically what I'm trying to say is, Burn in Despair is a pretty simple song, so it probably won't get too high because of this. It works for what it was needed for, but is still a pretty simple track. So it'll go at the top of decent tracks because of this. And that's it! Monster Mix's Hotland and Neutral Route tracks are finished. Well, I can only imagine how long this journey has probably been so far, and if you're still with me and Monster Mix, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you so much for listening or watching this video. It means so much to me. I honestly love talking about Monster Mix so much, as its music, ideas, role shifts, and definitely more is just so fun and creative. So, thank you. If you've watched intently from the beginning, or had this in the background to something else, thank you for watching. We've gotten past 97 whole tracks of Monster Mix, and somehow only have 30, kind of, left. These next tracks I especially can't wait for, as Pacifist and especially No Mercy are where I find some of the best of Monster Mix shines. So without further ado, let's make our way into the Pacifist ending tracks. But not in this part. Oh my gosh, this video is gonna take a lot longer than I thought it was. I am currently at over 3 hours of recording. Hopefully it will be less than that. Who knows? But yeah. We're gonna end it off by here. We'll see how... definitely by the end of this year, the rest of Monster Mix should be done. But who knows? Maybe it'll be 2027. Yeah. I'd just like to reiterate one last time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you actually watched all of this. If you've been supporting this tier list, or if you support Toadie, because Toadie's awesome, and yeah. Right now, at the time of recording this, Toadie has been doing the Deltarune replacement thingy for like some Discord server or something like that. I don't know, but it's been very interesting. It's been awesome. And since Monster Mix, there's been Super Mario 64 rune, no leader replacement stuff, a bunch of Yule Toad stuff that's just been awesome. Old Switcheroo, how could I forget about that? And of course, Dashing Toadie Tail. So, I mean, you should know this, but Toadie will be linked, if it works like all the other parts, in the title and in the description, because I really could not thank Toadie enough for creating all of this stuff. And yeah, I apologize once again if I got anything wrong, if I spoke incorrectly about certain characters, etc., etc. I'm not perfect. I apologize. I did not mean anything in bad intent. Any criticisms in bad intent. I know it got heated for the Guladay replacements, my child. But in the end, it's all in good fun. It's all in good love. I love Monster Mix. And yeah, I really enjoyed all this. If you stuck around, thanks for watching. It's like, no way, it's probably going to be on the screen right now. Thanks for watching. Jesus loves you, so have a great rest of your day. Maybe check out Silly Tail. It's very Monster Mix and just Toadie's work inspired. If you're interested. No? Okay, that's fine. Okay. I doubt anybody's gonna be listening this far. Ooh, I should like say something like super lore, so then like it's out here, but like nobody will know. Obi Dream 1 coming soon. official Anominatus track uploads coming soon. More Silly Tail obviously coming soon. And I think I'm gonna have a video for April Fools. I don't think I'm gonna do my evil papyrus. Papyrus is the reason why you are Papyrus is you are genocides April Fool's theory. But if I have time, maybe. I still need to. I should be focusing on scholarships right now, but I was like, nah, I'll do this Monster Mix tier list ranking instead. So really, I mean, if I end up poor, like in college, then it's Toadie's fault. Yeah. Sorry, Toadie. It's all your fault. I'm just kidding. I really need to stop yapping. Okay, this is the end. Goodbye. Monster Mix is dead. I'm just kidding. But, I would expect at least a little bit of waiting time until the Pacifist and No Mercy songs. Hopefully it shouldn't be too much. It will be the relatively, it will be relatively on my priorities list. But school's gotten evil. School's gotten evil in my adult years. Hear that, YouTube? Adult years. Anyways, that's it. That's all. I still haven't written the No Mercy track replacements stuff. Mainly because I know I'm going to have the most to talk about them because they are my favorites. Okay, I just need to stop talking. I am wholly padding the runtime, buddy. Okay, this is it. Goodbye. Thank you, Toadie. Thank you, Austhetic. Thank you, Jacket of Diamonds. Thank you, Toby Fox. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm going home. I'm going to sleep. Sleep like dreams, like dreamer reference? Oh my gosh, no way.